Namaste, viewers. This is going to be a completely different episode for you on Conversations in Bangalore. This is a very collaborative and an extremely cooperative podcast because this particular podcast was supposed to happen on another channel called Back to Basics. But the author, Mr. Anand, was very gracious and said, Shashank, you will do justice to this. I want you to have our guest on your podcast. That is how this podcast came about. A big thanks and shout out to Anand Vittal from Back to Basics. So, the podcast today is about what should have been a very normal topic but is a very controversial topic. It's about the Manusmriti, the basis of our Dharma Shastras. The author of a book, Chatushloki Manusmriti, is the guest today, Mr. Nitin Sridhar. I went through this book on a cursory reading. It's a very, very scholarly work. Now, for all of you who are interested and who will go pick this book up and start studying it, I wanted to make sure that the author himself, Mr. Nitin Sridhar, comes and gives us the basics, after which the book becomes much easier to go through. Welcome on Conversations in Bangalore for the first time, Mr. Nitin Sridhar.
Thank you very much, Shashankji, for inviting me. Very happy to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
Yes. So, first things first, what was your first introduction to Bangalore? Do you remember that?
Since I live in Mysuru, so Bangalore is not very new to me.
How?
Though I have not visited many times, but I have been coming to Bangalore once every few years on some occasion or the other. I know Bangalore pretty well.
Okay.
Not in the sense of the details of the Bangalore. I mean, it keeps changing every time I come. but as a kind of a cultural connection in the sense of it's part of the cultural part of Mysore Bangalore landscape. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you remember the first time? What are your first memories of this city of mine?
I'm not sure. I think I was a school student then. I think I might have come for some family function and all.
Okay.
Very long back. But some of the fond memories that I have in Bangalore are I lived in Bangalore for 6 months.
Okay.
When I was previously almost a decade back when I was in construction field.
Okay.
So I lived near Kyarapuram in the Mahadevpura. So I worked in that in a building project near that Arena Mall.
Okay.
So
So, you're one of the people who made sure we have a perpetual traffic jam on Kerala.
so that was the experience from a decade ago that has been with me because we stayed here for 6 months almost and daily experienced the traffic, the pollution, but also some beautiful aspects of the Bangalore as well. So I think that is a very strong impression in the mind. But of course, compared to Mysore, I'm biased to Mysore in the sense that you can live a more quiet life,
Oh, definitely.
lesser pollution, lesser noise. So I would prefer Mysore any day for a day-to-day living.
Oh, without question. In fact, all my summers and Dasara holidays were spent in Mysore. So I am not a stranger to Mysore at all. And yeah, so Mysore and Bangalore are the twin cities like Mumbai and Pune. That is the closest simile I can give in an Indian context. So I was actually fascinated to know that you are an engineer too, and then you have gone into a dharmic research or an Indic research, and you are with the Indic Academy as well. So please let us know, how did this journey begin? Where did it all start?
Okay, very interesting. I think my journey as an author kind of goes hand in hand with my journey as an individual, my spiritual and philosophical journey. So if I have to pinpoint where did it start, then I would have to go back on the memory lane to when I was in high school, and somebody was kind enough to give me a couple of a number of books, including one a book called Sophie's World,
Okay.
which was written for a teenager like us, introducing Western philosophy through a story format, but also through a method of Q&A, question and answer.
Okay, so
questions such as
basically a modern Upanishad.
yes, in a sense, of a Western kind. So, who am I? Who are you in reality? And so it gave a primer starting from Socrates and pre-Socrates philosophers to contemporary philosophers. So, wonderful book it is. So that book, the inquiry accompanying that book, kind of opened many doors, many horizons, which until then I had never thought about.
Okay.
So that was the beginning point of his philosophical journey, which eventually led to atheism, very interestingly.
Okay.
And it also eventually led me back to Hindu Dharma, because one thing that I took back, the great thing, the learning that I took back from that book is seeking for truth. And that has been a guiding fact, guiding principle to me throughout my life, even today, that there is no end to the journey. There is always seeking. You have to always seeking the truth, rather than being stuck to your biases and prejudice. And we all have our favorite theories and all, but you should always be open enough that when you are faced with certain undeniable facts, certain undeniable happenings, you are open enough mind and heart to accept them, to change your thinking, right? So that has been one guiding light for me. And that led me to atheism, and then eventually, through a very different way, through, I would say, a political way. Initially, the Ghar Wapsi was in a political sense that when through certain discoveries, I realized that for my enemy, I'm a Hindu. It doesn't matter whether I'm an atheist or theist and all.
Okay.
So that was the first step of Ghar Wapsi, so to speak, intellectually. And then but this philosophical journey continued, and eventually the reason why I kind of became an atheist, because of lack of answers for many questions, the philosophical questions, I was able to find it myself,
Okay.
right?
No, wait. Because of the lack of answers, you had turned an atheist.
Yeah, because see, the Western philosophy is by design a
Reductionist philosophy.
Yeah, but I can say that now, many critical points. But one of the major aspects of this philosophy is the reason.
Correct.
The reason as a tool to understand the world, and we have that reasoning, that logic, the nyaya embedded within an Indian tradition also. So that is
Correct.
common to us. But what we have, something very important, is the Shabda Pramana, is the notion of Adrushta, etc., which are beyond the Yukti.
Correct.
So Shastra Pramana and all is there. They have similar kind of thing in Christianity also, but I won't go there. But coming to my limited journey, so this reasoning is a two-edged sword, right? So when you ask questions, you may not always get the answers immediately, but mostly we don't have the patience to wait for an answer or to keep looking for the
Correct.
answers, right? So that led to kind of what I said, turning into atheism. But because I continued my search, I did not stop there. Eventually, I found the answers, all due to Bhagavati Anugraha.
Okay.
So that is how I said. So first a political returning, and then which eventually led to philosophical and spiritual discovery. One of the earliest memories that I have is somebody, a family friend, gave me a book called Living with Himalayan Masters by Swami Rama.
Oh yes, I just love that book.
Yeah, very wonderful. See, there are many books of that genre. Like we have Autobiography of Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda and others. But this one book has stayed with me even today, because it had great impact on me. The most important point that had an impact on me was the stories, accounts of various sadhus. And these sadhus lived just 20, 30 years or 50 years, 60 years back. So they were not in some antiquity, in some
Correct.
5,000 years back or 500 years back, or not in folk stories and all. These are real people who had great siddhis, who had great jnanam, who had great attainments. It was it was shocking to me, but also eye-opening to me that such things are real, such things are possible. So this opened a very different, again, a game changer to me, a very different area of sadhana. It opened a very different area of sadhana, of spirituality, of tantra, of yoga, and the very basis of Sanatana Dharma, which is, it is not just theoretical, which is not just dry philosophy, but rather a darshana, worldview, which is rooted in practice, orthopraxy, and attainment. So, and there are so many people around us who have that attainment. So we have the living Guru Parampara. So this very factual, this very fact that we have access to sadhus even today, or great yogis and such people, was really, very, very transformational for me. So then that direction opened, which, as I said, kind of led to even a I realized that what is Hindu, why am I Hindu, what does it mean to be a Hindu? It has been a continuous seeking, continuous, and it's not that it's just like a river keeps flowing, but nevertheless it stays a river. So it stays a river, but it keeps flowing. So there are fundamental ideas which are eternal, which stays with you. But there are also, your ideas, you keep moving more deeper and deeper, or more wider and wider. Some new insights keep coming, when you engage with the Shastra. I can now say that for me, a Dharma Shastra or a Veda Shastra or a Tantra Shastra or our Hindu Shastras, they are a guru in itself. So if you have patience, if you have that intuition, if you have that honesty, that is most important. If you have that honesty, then you keep engaging with that what is called as swadhyaya, and layers of insight will keep coming to you, because eventually it is, who is the Guru? It is the Ishvara himself. So Shastra is a mode for the Ishvara to speak, to reveal to us.
Fantastic. So in fact, I am compelled to share my journey with you as well. I've shared it with the viewers in a previous podcast. I had a similar journey to you. Very early on, I was brought up, might not be in a completely, I wouldn't say completely dharmic way, because both my parents were working, but my mother was a very, very big influence in me, because I used to, before I could go to school, she had taught me a lot of slokas. So I think my initiation was done there. And pretty much I could narrate the Ramayana and Mahabharata in toddler form completely before I even stepped foot in a day school.
Nice.
So that way I think my initiation was begun. But just like you, through my growing up days, I eventually I had my atheistic periods. And without knowing, at least how you came back. Without knowing, I keep telling, Shiva always brought me back. Somehow Shiva brought me back. And that was such a gradual process, and it was so gradual that I didn't even realize it. But the book you mentioned, Swami Rama, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes.
What really struck me about that book was something which struck you as well. That Swami Rama was in the century I was born. He was in the 20th century. It is not like we are talking about sages who have gone back and whose names we remember. And not just that, Swami Rama spoke fluent English.
Yes.
He lectured in the US in multiple universities. There were scientific tests done on his siddhis. So I was like, okay, wait. Even if you are looking for reason, even if you are looking for Western science to prove that this man is not lying, even that is done. And Swami Rama, if I'm not mistaken, was the Shankaracharya at one point of time.
Yes, of one of the matas.
Yeah,
yes.
He was the Shankaracharya of one point of time, and then he went on. And that, in my head, when I finished that book, and I was like, the Shankaracharya in our tradition is one of the highest gurus. At least in the Advaita philosophy, a Shankaracharya is the highest Dharma Guru that we have. what would make a person give that up and continue his journey? And that is when it brings me back when you say, keep seeking the truth, keep seeking the truth. So that book had a very big influence on me too. And the experiences and the way it has been narrated, and yeah, that book. I'm sorry to digress, but I just wanted to share that that book really had a big influence on me too. Now, while we were speaking, you spoke about yukti, nyaya, and adrushta. Please explain these terms to me and our viewers.
Okay. Um, so, yukti basically means a reason. Nyaya is also another name. Nyaya Shastra is about Tarka Shastra. So, Nyaya has many different meanings, but I used it in the sense of reason, the logical reasoning, what we call today. So, we have had a very strong.
So, nyaya in a proper Sanskrit meaning is akin to tarka or reason. And it is not justice as we know it in Kannada today.
Yeah, I mean, see,
In the sense we are talking, we are not using it as justice, but as reason.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, in Kannada, Nyaya is usually used for justice.
Yes.
But in Samskrita, Nyaya Nyaya Shastra is Tarka Shastra. It's a logical, debate, logical, this one. It is an independent darshana also. So
Okay.
we have Nyaya Darshana, right? So it's...
Darshana is a worldview.
It's a worldview. It's a philosophical worldview, but much more than a philosophy. Right?
Correct.
So it is one of the Astika Darshanas, and the great Nyaya, Nayayikas, some of them were very important, very critical, for their, taking down, for the criticism of Buddhism. They developed this great debating method called Navya Nyaya, the new school of Nyaya. So we have the old school of Nyaya, new school of Nyaya. And
This, if I'm not mistaken, was developed in Sarnath, correct?
I'm not sure where, but the Navya Nyaya comes from, if I'm not mistaken, from Gangesh Upadhyaya.
Okay.
And it was basically in response to Khandana Khandakadya of that Advaitic text, which kind of does a demolishing of each argument of the Nyaya. So basically, the
Was this before Adi Shankaracharya's
after
debate?
After.
Okay.
Yeah. So Khandana Khandakadya basically what it does is it shows how the Nyaya definitions of many things are problematic. So they created a new language of logical debate. That is what Navya Nyaya is.
Okay.
And after that, all the schools adopted this new language of debate.
That is all the schools of Buddhism.
No. All the schools of Astika schools.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Nyaya is a Astika school, right? So this Sri Harsha who wrote the Khandana Khandakadya was an Advaitin. So he critiqued Nyaya school and showed how their definitions are, in a sense, unsubstantiated.
Okay.
Because the definitions are problematic.
Or how it can be beat.
Basically, he does a khandana. He demolished the
Correct.
very method of Nyaya, argumentation. So Gangesh Upadhyaya and others created a new method of argumentation wherein...
Which is Navya Nyaya, which is New Nyaya.
Yeah, and that has been adopted across the board,
Across all dharmic
we have
sampradayas.
Dharmic sampradayas. We have Dvaita scholars writing their works of Khandana of Advaita in using the framework of Navya Nyaya.
Okay.
Madhusudana Saraswati then wrote Advaita Siddhi as a response to that the Dvaita arguments, and he also used this Navya Nyaya only.
Okay.
So that has been going for the last.
Okay.
So that is Nyaya Shastra. Again, I'm not a scholar of Nyaya Shastra.
So, just for me to visually understand this, so both swordsmen using the same weapon are fighting each other.
Yes.
The Navya Nyaya being the sword here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Or both using the same method of combat.
Okay. Both karate fighters are in the same.
Yeah,
Okay.
something like that. Yeah. So that is Nyaya. Yukti is again same reasoning.
Okay.
Reason. You have this. We have many shlokas wherein reasoning is upheld, but is also considered as a two-edged sword, because you can always use reasoning, you can use the reasoning to do the khandana of opponent, but you can also, the opponent can also use the same reasoning to do your own khandana.
Correct.
So reasoning has no end. You can always offer some reasoning end, right? So that is yukti. So yukti, like a sword, it is very sharp. It can cut the opponent, but it can cut you also if you accidentally
Okay.
right?
Correct.
So that is the nature of this yukti, reason. So adrishta, basically what adrishta means, we have, adrishta simply means that which cannot be perceived by your sense organs.
Okay.
Adrishta literally means that which cannot be seen, referring to the organ of
Sight.
But it refers to all the
sense organs.
all the indriyas. So that which is agrahya, that is cannot be grasped by the sense organs, by the empirical way, it is adrishta. So for example,
Adrushta, when you see the Sanskrit Vingadane of the word, it is something that is not seen. Literally,
invisible.
drushta. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So basically non-empirical. And what are those non-empirical entities? For example, in the context of the Dharma Shastra, the notion of punya, papa, swarga, naraka, sukha, dukkha, even moksha, atma,
Ananda also is Adrushta.
ananda. See, all these are, you cannot see it,
Measure
hear
it. They are not tangible.
measure. They are not empirical.
Correct.
Right? Basically, they are not tangible. They are not empirical. So this adrishta is a very, very important concept. Adrishta, apurva. These are all very, very important concepts to understand Dharma Shastra. They are very important to understand Sanatana Dharma.
Nitinji, 1 second. So let us structure this. Let us go step by step. So when we say Dharma Shastra, where do one find an understanding of what Dharma Shastra is? In fact, the word dharma itself is so natural to us, but at the same time it is so alien to us. Everybody uses the word dharma. And in some way, if you're born and brought up in Indian atmosphere, the word is not alien to you. And to some extent, we grasp the meaning even before somebody explains it to us. So can you explain to us what is the Dharma Shastra?
A very important question. This is more important today because, as you say, all of us have some intuitive grasp of the term, but in a communication, especially in any narrative building or discourse, social discourse, political discourse, religious discourse, that intuitive meaning is not enough. You have to have clarity on what it is.
Correct.
But unfortunately, today that word has been completely trivialized, that we use dharma in any and every context. I mean, some use it as a status symbol, some use it to legitimize their own whims and fancies. Nowadays, some scholars say that Dharma Shastras don't know what is dharma, they are all adharma Shastras. I will tell you what is the real dharma. So now we have all these ideas. So if so there is a wonderful verse, if I remember, it comes from Apastama Dharma Sutra, wherein it's basically the gist is, it says that dharma and adharma do not come and tell us, I am dharma, I am adharma. So basically, it's a reference to an action. So human actions themselves, they can't speak, they can't
Correct.
tell, right? So they don't tell that, oh look, I am bad action, oh look, I am good action. So then how do we know what is good, what is bad? Now, if I say that I can decide for my own, so that is what the default setting with most people is. That is why they all define dharma in their own way,
Correct.
what is convenient. Something is convenient to them, it becomes dharma. Something is inconvenient to them, it becomes adharma.
Definitely.
Right? So there is, if that is the case, if that is how it should be, then there is no standard to determine what is dharma and what is adharma. Then that concept itself becomes meaningless.
Yes, then
Right?
it's the rule of the jungle.
Yeah, I mean basically you can't pinpoint what it is, right?
So everybody have their own determination of dharma
Yeah.
and adharma.
Yeah, just like today we have right and wrong. See, right
Correct.
and wrong is a neutral terms, neutral English terms. So anybody and everybody can justify, or even a criminal, say a murderer can justify his murder using many different arguments.
Correct.
It's like I was a victim, I was targeted. It was a
Especially
revenge
nowadays,
thing.
yes.
Yeah, so many things, right? Often, the rapists and those who defend rapists, kind of justify that using victimizing the victim, the criminalizing the victim. So all kinds of arguments are possible. That is what the yukti is, two-edged
Double-edged sword. Yes.
Yeah. But the dharma, the term, is not a rudipada. It's not simply a term such as that has evolved in our conversation. But dharma is a term, is a shastriya pada.
Okay.
So it has its origination in the shastra, in
Okay.
the Vedas, in the Smritis, in the Dharma Shastras. So as a concept which has evolved from the Shastras, then we have to understand what is the definition they gave, what is the sense they use, what are the different dimensions they define it. So unless we have this knowledge, then all of us speaking of dharma is completely meaningless.
Okay, so
So-
what you are saying is there have been definitions of what is dharmic, what is adharmic, and what is dharma in certain situations, what is adharma in certain situations.
Not just that. There has the very term dharma. What is dharma? Forget about what are the tenets of dharma or what are the principles of dharma. Very question of what is dharma, it is defined in the shastras.
Okay.
So when we say, you asked about what is dharma shastra, right? So shastra is a treatise.
Correct.
It is basically, there are multiple ways to again enunciate upon it. Shastra is a field of knowledge. It is a treatise. It is a textbook, to put it in contemporary language. It is a treatise which imparts knowledge on a subject matter. Or rather, more to put it more specifically, it orders the knowledge, it systematizes the knowledge in a particular field and then expresses it in a very technical language, in a systematic language.
Okay.
So that is what Shastra is. So basically, a source of knowledge is a Shastra. A Dharma Shastra is from where we know what is Dharma, what are the principles of Dharma, what are the do's and don'ts of Dharma.
Okay.
So now coming to the very definition I was telling, so very definition is defined in the Shastra. So unless we know those definitions, we cannot confidently speak about Dharma. Or even if when we are speaking in a interpretive sense, in a more of inferential sense,
Or an intuitive sense.
intuitive sense, even then we have to anchor ourselves into that Shastriya definition to make our sense meaningful or authentic.
Correct.
So unless that happens, so today everything, what is currently happening, take any modern phenomenon, take any modern values and you add dharma to it, and as if those values, by adding the word dharma, it becomes dharma.
Corporate dharma.
Exactly. So
That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, see, corporate dharma, if you are using it in the sense that you're using dharmic principles to analyze corporate practices, then we can speak about what is the dharma of a corporate person.
Correct, definitely.
But what is happening is, the kind of corporate practices are already happening.
You're putting dharma against it to sanctify it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So that is where the problem
Correct.
arises. So these are two different things. So we have to understand from the Shastras what is the definition of Shastra.
Fantastic.
What is the
So,
definition of dharma.
so Dharma Shastra is basically treatises which actually define and make it easier for us to understand what dharma is. Fantastic. Now, in our tradition, in the Sanatana tradition, in the library of texts we have, what are the different Dharma Shastras that we have? Manusmriti is one Dharma Shastra that most of us know of. I would say no. Most of us know of. I know of a few more, like Yagyavalkya Shastra was there. Apastamba Shastra was there. I think Apastamba Shastra.
It's the Apastamba Sutra.
No,
Dharma Sutra.
There is Apastamba Sutra is there, but there is also a Apastamba Rishi who gave a Dharma Shastra, or I think a treaty on Dharma Shastra.
No, that is what Apastamba Dharma Sutra is. That is what more famous. I think there is also Apastamba Samhita. I'm not sure, but there are other Samhitas like Angirasa and all.
Okay, so these are the few Dharma Shastras that I know of. I cannot say I know any of them, but these are what I know of. So, what are the different Dharma Shastras in our libraries?
Yeah. Again, very important question. Let me just rephrase the question a bit in a technical language. What are the pramanas of dharma? That is, what
Okay.
are the valid sources for gaining authentic knowledge about dharma? So, in the Manusmriti itself, it says, Vedo Akila Dharma Moolam. So, the Akila Veda, the infinite Veda, is the very root, very foundation of dharma. So the very primary, the most important, the most foundational source of dharma, the foundational dharma shastra, is the Veda itself.
Okay.
And when I say Veda, it is not just the Samhitas, it is not just the mantras, it is the Samhita, the Brahmana, the Aranyaka, the Upanishads, the whole thing. And then comes the allied works, that is the Vedangas, that are very much necessary to understand the Veda. And as part of the Vedanga, we have these Kalpa Sutras, the Kalpa, which is one of the Anga, which is about rituals, right?
Correct.
Which is about actions. So in this Kalpa only, we get the Shulba Sutras, which is about geometry. We have Shrauta Sutras about the details about the Shrauta Yagyas, the Yagyas described directly in the Veda Brahmanas, etc. And then we have Grihas Sutras, which are domestic rituals, domestic practices of a householder, and Dharma Sutras, which are about socio-cultural life of a grihastha and all. So, all these are Dharma Shastras,
Okay.
right?
So,
Let me complete, yeah. So, all these are Dharma Shastras. So, all the Vedangas, so Vedas, the Vedangas, and then comes the Smritis. And
Okay.
then comes the Itihasa Puranas. Itihasas are quite Ramayana, Mahabharata. And Puranas also people know 18 Puranas and all.
Nitinji,
This-
you are going too far ahead for a rudimentary mind like me to follow
No,
you.
no, I'll tie them all
Okay.
together, right? So Vedas, Vedangas, Smritis, Itihasa, Puranas. People are familiar with Itihasa, Purana, etc. People are familiar with Vedas also. The Smritis are the one which they are not familiar. And the Dharma Shastra term, though it applies to all of them, but in a more technical sense or more narrower sense, the Manusmriti itself says the Veda is the Shruti, and when we say Dharma Shastra, it is the Smriti. So there is a broader definition which includes the whole Pramana, and there is a narrow definition wherein Dharma Shastra refers to the Smritis. And we have 56 plus Smritis, of which around 18 to 20 are important Smritis. Of them, the Manu Dharma Shastra, the Manusmriti is the most important, most prominent. And this is something recognized by the Smritis themselves. Other
Okay.
Smritis also speak about this. Say Brihaspati Smriti says if there is a disagreement on any point between Manu and other Smritis or any other text, then whatever Manu says has to be taken into as the final decision.
Okay.
So even the Veda says that whatever Manu says is like a medicine. You may not like it, but it is for your benefit. So,
Okay.
So Manu is the first Manu, then the Yagyavalkya, Parashara.
So, Manu,
Narada.
are we talking about the Vaivasvata Manu?
As far as the Manusmriti itself is concerned, it attributes it to the first Manu, Swayambhava Manu.
Okay.
So it is that.
So it is not this yugas, but this, not only this Manvantara, but this Shastra holds for all Manvantaras.
Exactly.
So, my understanding is we are under the 7th Manu right now.
Yes.
So, the Manusmriti that we talk about, according to the text itself, it says it is Swayambhu Manu's Shastra.
Yes.
Okay.
It says that Brahma revealed the knowledge of Dharma to Swayambhava Manu, who then composed this Shastra.
Okay.
Right?
So,
and then he taught
and
it
the
to...
reference of this is in the Vedas as well?
Vedas mention about Manu, and
Okay.
it says that whatever Manu says is like a medicine.
Okay.
Right? And references are there in Mahabharata and other texts
Yes,
also.
Mahabharata I am familiar with.
Yeah. Basically, then Manu is supposed to have taught this to different rishis and who themselves have transmitted in their own schools. So
Okay.
we have many schools in which this dharma later got transmitted, and many rishis wrote their own texts of dharma,
Correct.
having this Manu Dharma Shastra as the basis.
Okay.
So currently we have 18 to 20 major Smriti texts, which are the Manusmriti, which is what the has come come to us in the Bhrigu recension.
Okay.
There is Narada Smriti, there is Yagyavalkya Smriti, there is Parashara Smriti. Parashara Smriti has holds special relevance to Kali Yuga, because the very nature of the text is that it says that it is specifically applicable to Kali Yuga. I mean,
Okay.
it gives certain ideas, contextualization that are relevant here specifically. That doesn't mean others are not relevant. It has to be taken and together, not in isolation. So Manu, Narada, Parashara,
Bhrigu.
and Yagyavalkya. We have many others. We have in the Dharma Sutras. We had Apastamba Dharma Sutra, Gautama Dharma Sutra, and Vasishtha
Bodhayana.
Dharma Sutra, Baudhayana. So all these are there, and other Smritis. Shankalikata and Daksha Smriti and many others are there. So these 4-5 are most popular, most very detailed studied. We have many traditional commentaries. So for example, on Manusmriti we have as many as 9 Samskrita commentaries written over the last 2000 years.
9 commentaries.
On
9 bhashyas on Manusmriti.
Manusmriti.
Okay.
The oldest is by Baruchi, which scholars date to maybe some 7th century, 8th century or something like that.
AD.
AD, yeah. But Baruchi himself quotes, or at least appears to quote older commentaries,
Okay.
which we don't have access. The most voluminous commentary is Medatithi, who is again, I think, 9th, 10th century. We have others like Kulukabhatta, Raghavendra, Sarvajñatma, and others on Manusmriti. After Manusmriti, Manusmriti has the largest number of commentaries.
Okay.
And after Manusmriti, we have in Yagyavalkya, we have 4 or 5 bhashyas. There is one by Sureshwaracharya also. He goes by the name Vishwarupacharya also. So he's a Vedanta Acharya commenting on Yagyavalkya Smriti. And we have the famous Apararka, King Aparaditya has written Apararka, which is a commentary on Yagyavalkya Smriti. So we have 4 or 5 commentaries on Veeramitroodaya and others on Yagyavalkya. We have one commentary on Parashara Smriti by Swami Vidyaranya, the
Okay. Yes.
Madhavacharya, Swami Vidyaranya. So these 3 works, I think there might be some commentary on Narada Smriti also, I'm not sure. I don't recall that at the moment. So these are the most important Smritis, even among the whole list. Like we have 10 major Upanishads, but we have
8 on which
Shankaracharya has commented around 10 or 11 Upanishads, but we have 108 Upanishads as per the Muktika canon list. But some references also speak about 1000 Upanishads. So the list can be small, list can be big. So Smritis also, these 4 or 5 are very core, but 18 to 20 are considered very important. But there are almost 56 Smritis that are available to us today. So this shows that the how the vast the landscape of Dharmashastra is and how old it is. So many of the recensions might have lost some time. We might have some manuscripts, some available today, but it could be of a very old recension. There is no way to either either prove it in one way or the other way. We can only interpret what we have with us today.
Okay. So, if my understanding of this, okay, let me state my understanding of this because I want this to be a conversation where I learn from you, and maybe through this learning, the audience can also get some basic understanding, because that's what I am trying to do here. So, as I see this, that you say there are about 50 odd Smritis that we know of, and my assumption here, correct me if I'm wrong, is that these are not all at the same time. So there are different Smritis that came into prominence, died out, or were written at different periods. They're not all contemporary Smritis. Am I correct?
Yes. I mean, it's not possible to pinpoint the dating of any of these texts. Because, see, from a manuscript perspective, manuscripts are only few centuries old at best.
Correct.
But even otherwise, if you go back in time, say, for example, people date Manusmriti to 2nd century BCE to 2nd century AD. But what they're actually dating is the extant text with us. The
available 2,600 odd slokas.
Right? But the tradition itself, for example, in the Parashara Smriti, it speaks about how Manusmriti was transmitted. It says that the original Manu Dharma Shastra had 100,000 shlokas, and then it was redacted at different points of time by Narada and others. So we have this knowledge embedded in this memory embedded within our tradition, within our text, that there have been a long line of transmission through different schools, through different recensions. So when we speak about Manu Dharma Shastra, it is not just the text that we have today, right?
So this is a edited version.
It is a redacted version.
Okay.
So, a redaction basically, as I see it, at least in the case of Manusmriti and all, it is a new creation, new in the sense of a form, but in the sense of the content or the essence, it is very old. So when you do
Okay.
that, when these reductions happen, what is also done is that see that also happens in how the bhashyas or the how are written. Though different bhashyas may have written at different times. Say today I am writing one bhashya for the 4 verses I wrote, and Medhatiti has written 2000 years back, right? 1000 years back, not 2000. We are both commenting on the same text. We are both functioning in the same worldview. We are both explaining the same thing in pretty much similar way because we are explaining the same concept. That concept is eternal. But there might be contexts wherein my interpretation adds a particular different layer, which is which makes sense today. And the today situation, today's society, or today's context that I am seeing, but that may not have made sense to Medhatiti 1000 years back, or something that he might be adding a contextualization, right?
So
the essence, the core is eternal.
Correct. So what this tells me is that these smritis are evolutionary. They are not ossified, and the essence may be the same. There might be redactions based on the socio-political conditions of the time when they were redacted. Is that an understanding? Could that be right?
I will modify that a bit to make it proper as I see it. I will not use the term evolution, but rather you're correct, it prevents ossification. That is, it makes our tradition, it's not just limited to Dharma Shastra. It happens to all the Shastra tradition within Hindu Dharma. Take Kama Shastra, take Vedanta or anything. What is happening is these are not dead texts.
Okay. Okay.
The tradition is making it alive. That continuous engagement with the core text throughout the time ensures that the text is alive, because who is engaging with it? It's a conscious person, a person who is a conscious entity.
Manusya or a Purusha is engaging
with it, right? So it is a alive text. It is not a dead text. Dead text is something, now today there are no real Greek civilization. It's not there. Nobody is there.
Correct.
So whoever reads that, they are just engaging with a dead text.
Oh, you mean a Latin?
No, Greek civilization is dead, right? The Greeks are there. The country is there. But the civilization
is no longer there. Yes.
It's no longer there. The deities are no longer here, right?
Now they're all Christian now, yeah.
Yeah, and the devatas are no longer manifesting. So whoever is reading it, they're academically reading it. They're reading a dead text. But we are not a dead civilization. Our texts are not dead. So the way to see it is, the redaction, the purpose of a redaction is not socio-political. The purpose of a redaction is to make the text and its knowledge more accessible to people.
Okay.
Right? So more accessible to people. So a particular socio-political condition could have caused inaccessibility. That is being rectified through this redaction. But inaccessibility could be many different. With the Shastras say, with the passing of the age, with the passing of the Yuga, when the Kali Yuga comes, the memory, the capacity of people have reduced. So now we have to, even the Veda were, the Veda Vyasa did all this organization for the sake of Kali Yuga people who have inferior intellect, inferior capacity. So coming to this.
Now that is so profound. The thought just hit me. The attention span of people as we see right now is reduced so much that and it was profound. It was said way back when, and said people's intellect and their capacity to retain is reducing. Ergo, we have to divide the Vedas. We have to make it easier. Wow. Okay.
So we are doing that something, you gave a very good example. We are already doing it. We make 1 2 hour video and then we are putting out 2 minutes reels, bytes.
Yes.
So what is this creating reels and bytes? Basically, it is trying to
Catering,
condense
yeah.
that knowledge into very shorter versions for those who do not have the capacity or inclination to read the bigger version.
Correct.
So that is what reduction is essentially is, right?
Okay.
Right? Now, what the Bhashyas or what the continuous engagement ensures is that the eternal teachings are contextualized to address the growing necessities or the needs of the society. Yes. So it is addressing the situations in the society, but the core, or it is not changing its core as per the whims and fancies of the society or as per the growing trends of the society. What people are arguing today is, today we have a constitution. They say the constitution is Dharma Shastra, so we don't need our Dharma Shastra, we can put them all in the dustbin. Right? Or
I don't agree with this, but I hear this all the time.
Yes, this is all the time. Or other people say that all our smritis have become outdated. Now we need a new smriti. Somebody has to write a new smriti. See, both these are fundamentally problematic arguments. One, constitution is not a Dharma Shastra because it does not subscribe to the dharmic worldview. It
doesn't.
It does not, right?
It explicitly says it is not dharmic.
Exactly. So that is a very easy thing to see. And second, Dharma Shastra is not just about legal. Legal is only one aspect of the Dharma Shastra, which is a larger scope. Second, when you say you need a Dharma
Wait
Shastra,
1 second. Was there a time, any time in the past, either ancient or historic India, where any Dharma Shastra was a legal book?
Okay, I'll come to that. Very important question, but let me complete this that I was answering. Second, do we need a new Dharma Shastra today? See, if the question is, do we need a continued engagement with the Dharma Shastra tradition, creating new texts, new, say for example, Bhashyas or independent works, yes, that is needed. But what we don't need is a new Smriti. First of all, why? A Smriti in a technical sense is something that has to be written by a Rishi or a Muni or something like a Manu and all. We can't write a Smriti.
Okay.
Because it has to do with Adrishta and all. We can't perceive it. We don't have the tapasya to even perceive it in great meditation we don't have that, right? So second, even if you write a new Smriti, then it has to be in alignment with the previous Smritis, because Dharma is eternal. Dharma is not changing. It's not that in Satya Yuga speaking truth was Dharma, and today because everybody is speaking lie has become Dharma.
Okay.
It is not like that.
Okay.
Right?
No, I understand that. So basically, how I understand this is, you are saying that Dharma is the underlying matrix on which any Smriti in our context should be written, but there are no scholars of that scholastic ability to write a new Smriti from scratch today.
I am saying that such a whole thing is not needed at all. Why?
Okay.
I'm coming to that. I'm just giving an argument that even if you have such a person of that scholastic ability, even then his Smriti will also be in alignment with what the Dharma Shastra is already saying. It will not be opposition to it. If it is in opposition to it, then it is not a Smriti. It cannot survive the test of authenticity.
Got it.
So, right, it has to be fundamentally in alignment with the dharmic principles that has been already enumerated. So, such a thing is not needed, because we already have a Parashara Smriti which is supposed to be given by Rishi Parashara for entire Kali Yuga. We have not come out of Kali Yuga. We are still very, very far away from Kali Yuga.
Correct. From the end of Kali
So,
Yuga.
we already have a text. So, why don't you work with that? So, the reason why you are asking for a new
But
Smriti...
Parashara Smriti is not too different
It is not.
than the Manusmriti.
It is not.
It has just different, how do I say, different prescriptions of implementation and understanding of Dharma in the Kali Yuga.
Exactly. It gives certain very important contextualizations. And that contextualization is a continuous process, and that has to be done. I agree. But for that, we don't need a new Smriti. What they want is, with every 30 years, people's thoughts are changing.
That's right.
So we need a text to reflect those changes.
Yes, yes.
That is what these are.
Correct.
So that is not a genuine Smriti.
That is not. I
Right?
understand that, but that gets into now. Okay, when if I look at all these arguments, I would first go and say what is the intention of this? It is very easy to see it's all malified intention because none of them have read a Smriti to begin with. That it's malified intention. That is enough for me to negate it. But you live in a different world. You live in a world where you are dealing with this on a day-to-day basis as a scholar. So I understand you are in the akhada as we say. You are in the akhada. You are grappling with this as a daily basis. But I am looking at it as a student who wants to understand where we come from, what our texts are, where do we begin. Now, a few things that we established here. But these smritis are not ossified, they keep evolving, redactions are made, contextualizations are made. There might be another smriti, but almost all our smritis originally say that we derive our source from the Manusmriti.
We derive the source from the Dharma
Pantheon.
Pramanas.
Okay.
So it has to be in alignment with the Dharma Pramanas.
Okay, so now smriti in my understanding is one person's explanation of the Shruti or the essence of the Shruti or one part of the Shruti. Either it could be a person or it could be a school or it could be a rishi, whoever the author is. It could be a rishi, it could be a parampara, whoever have given the smriti. It is their explanation or commentary on the Shruti. Is that correct?
Again, the Smriti term itself has been used in a very broad sense today, has been used in broad sense, like a Samhita, like any person who is pointing out a opinion or collating their opinions is also any human origin, any work of human origin is also called as Smriti.
No, but
in a technical sense, Smriti, the question means memory, right? Smriti means
is memory,
So
yes.
the question is memory of whom? So it is of the rishis, right? Okay. Or memory of a rishis who had the direct perception of the Veda. That is, direct perception.
So who had the adhikara to even write a
yes.
smriti.
Similarly, if it could be a Muni, say you could say that Manu was a Muni also, somebody who had contemplated on the Dharma, contemplated on the Vedic truths, and a distilled form of those contemplation is a Smriti of Manusmriti, right? Okay. You can say that. So the point again is that it is of a the Smritis, the orthodox Smritis, or I think that is not a correct word. People you misuse that word also, orthodox. So rather the Astika Smritis, okay, all these Dharma Shastra Smritis, there you see that all of them have been attributed to personages who are like Yagyavalkya, who was a great Jivan Mukta, or Manu, who was he was a son of, he was son of Brahma, Prajapati Brahma
the
himself.
First of creations.
Yes. So all great divine beings, all great munis,
realized souls. Yeah.
Realized souls. So if we have, if there's such a need, if someday comes that we need a new Smriti, we'll have a new Smriti on its own.
That's fine. So I'm not even going to that political or
see there
confrontational requirement that is happening on the side.
Yeah.
I am just here as a student of understanding.
Yes,
the Smritis.
The Smriti is that, as I mentioned, it's about memory.
Correct.
It's where your distillized knowledge you are putting out. So in the Veda is infinite. Vedas are
the original Shruti.
Yes, because
it is eternal. It does not change.
It is eternal, it does not change, and it is accessed in deep meditation through deep tapasya by the rishis.
But even today, according to our understanding, Vedas are called the Shruti because they haven't changed from inception till date. And that parampara and keeping the Vedas going in exactly the same form is there.
But we have lost
lost, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, in our pantheon, so let's go through the hierarchy of our texts. First comes the Shruti, which is the actual Vedas. Now, and then there are Smritis based again on Smritis of various hierarchies. Now, you said in the whole Vedanga, there are Vedas, then there are Aranyakas, there are Upanishads, Puranas, and then later on Itihasa. So, what are these? Can you explain the hierarchy to us?
Okay. I think earlier you had asked this question also about the constitution part. Uh, to quickly answer that, we never had this concept of constitution at all in the
No,
past.
not constitution.
Yeah.
Was it a book of law anywhere?
Yeah. So we did not had this notion of constitution at all.
We
in the
only had
past.
dharma.
We had what we had is all these dharma shastras, not just Manusmriti, all the dharma shastras.
Correct.
They formed the backbone of our jurisprudence.
Okay.
Backbone in the sense, all these jurists and all, they were well versed, including the king all, was supposed to be well versed in the dharma shastra.
Shastras.
And when they gave judgments or analyzed issues and all,
It had to be based on this.
it has to dharma shastra one source. The other source was to examine the facts of the matter, have understanding of the lokachara and the kulachara of the people, and then give judgment. So dharma
Which is
shastra,
no different than the judicial system that we have today.
in many sense.
Because the judicial system says that our Dharma Shastra, or I understand I'm bastardizing the word, our constitution is our Dharma Shastra today. Now, the interpretation of our constitution is the sole duty and responsibility of the judicial system. Am I correct in stating this? Now, in giving judgment on any particular case, the lokachara, the circumstance, the sthiti, paristiti, all that. Paristiti is the circumstance. Lokachara is social practices.
But there is one difference in the sense that
So now, in essence, our judicial system is doing something in a similar fashion what the previous jurisprudence was, or let's say a dharmic jurisprudence, whoever was a nyayadisha. It could be a king, it could be a minister, or it could be a court head. Or it could be a kulacharya or anybody of that
we had
nature.
different levels of justice.
Correct. So they also did the same thing, but their basis was being rooted in the Dharma Shastras.
Yes.
Okay.
So Dharma Shastra formed a backbone of our civilization in one way or the other way.
Okay.
Sometimes explicitly, sometimes implicitly. But we did not had a notion of Manusmriti as a book of laws. That is,
Okay.
Whatever is written is implemented on the ground as is.
So that was never there.
That was never there. We don't.
And there are no mentions that Manusmriti is the hard and fast law of the land.
No, it has not been there.
Okay.
But the laws were made by the kings.
Correct.
Kings were learned in the Dharma Shastra, they were learned in the Artha Shastra, they were learned in the Kama Shastras, and they were learned in the Lokachara, Kulachara. So as and when things arose, they made laws, they gave judgments. So they had this all
They had a point of reference of the Dharma Shastras.
Exactly. That is
Okay.
the point, right? Yeah.
No, the reason I ask you this question is the biggest attack on Manusmriti is we don't want Manusmriti. Right? Well, you don't want Manusmriti. Manusmriti cannot be the basis of everything today. Well, Manusmriti was never a law book.
Exactly.
Right? So that is what I wanted to understand. So even while people had much more faith and say they were leaning on Manusmriti much more back in the day before the adharmic or rather I wouldn't say adharmic, I would say people not of the dharmic inclination when they came to India.
Oh, they were definitely adharmic. There is no doubt about
Okay.
it. So let us. There's no need to be politically correct.
Okay.
There is only dharma,
So-
which is Sanatana Dharma.
Okay, so before the adharmics came to India, back then they were leaning much more towards the Dharma Shastras.
Yeah,
even then it was not a law book.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so
We have
the opposition today saying that we are going to go back to Manusmriti. is a redundant.
Exactly.
Okay.
We have inscription evidences wherein kings are praised as upholding the ideals of Manu,
Okay.
right? As upholding the vision of Manu, ideals of Manu,
I
following
think
this.
even as late as the Vijayanagara Empire, there have been praises of Krishna Deva Raya being a dharma upholder.
Yes, and there have been specific mentions of somebody who has followed the path of the Manu in the inscriptions. I think even in Tamil Nadu we had that
Yes.
inscriptions of Cholas and all.
Yes.
So the point here is ideals
Of
flowed
Manusmriti.
from
Yeah.
the Manusmriti and the Dharmashastras, but the working, working principles or the working tenets or the policies and all, these were one of the elements. But there were other, the Dharmashastra themselves says that, on the matters of, say, for example, civil and criminal cases and all, what is the facts of the matter holds more importance than any other principles that have been stated in the text.
Okay.
Right?
So the Dharma Shastras themselves say
Yeah,
that we are not an open and shut case. You will have to weigh in factors on the ground.
Yes.
Okay, so these are not gospel truths. Even, I mean, apart from Shrutis, there are no gospel truths in our tradition at all.
Again, it's a very interesting argument because, see, the Dharmashastras can be broadly divided into three areas: Achara, and Vyavahara, and Prashchita. Vyavahara is legal jurisprudence.
Okay.
So, legal jurisprudence by definition deals with the things of the world, empirical things.
Correct.
So, there, though it has a basis in the Adrishta from the Dharmashastra perspective, what takes precedence is the facts of the matter. So
Correct.
there Drishta has more, but still there also Adrishta elements are there.
As a guiding principle.
As a guiding principle, and there are certain instructions in the Dharmashastra and all. It will not make sense unless you understand the Adrishta part. Otherwise, the way
Okay,
people.
so let's simplify this.
No, let me just complete. But in the Achara and Prayashchitta, Adrishta is the major thing. So this, what you mentioned about gospel truth. So it is so in the case of Achara, etc., because there it is predominantly Adrishta or Drishta Adrishta. So wherever Adrishta comes.
One second. You have to
Let
explain
me,
this.
Hi, I'm doing that.
To the audience.
So what I mean by Adrishta is Punya, Papa, Swarga, Naraka.
Correct.
Right? So on all those measures, very simple
Achara
example.
is practice.
Practice. So very simple example is, in the Veda it says, Swarga Kama Yajeta. If you want Swarga, then you have to do this Yagya. So there is no question about I will not do this Yagya this way, I will do something else, will I get Swarga?
So that is prescriptive.
It is prescriptive. Correct. And it is revealing us the connection between karma and karma phala. So this karma phala is adrishta, vastu, like punya and swarga, etc. So then there is no scope for interpretation in the sense that I will do what I like kind of thing.
So here your achara is the yajna.
Yeah, yajna, our varnashrama dharma, our grihastha dharma, sannyasa dharma, all samskaras, everything comes there, right? Samanya dharma, bhakti, upasana, everything comes there, right? So, but the other thing, which is the legal jurisprudence, is of a different nature, right? So, this have to be, that is why. So, when you think about Dharma Shastra, it is much more complicated than what people think it is. So, it is not just.
So, let us just simplify this in one angle. So, all the people who say, we do not want to go back to be ruled by Manusmriti. A simple answer is, Manusmriti never ruled anybody. It is just a guiding principle. When we come to ruling somebody, today we have the rule of law. Manusmriti was never the law, but it was just the principles on which different kings or rulers made their laws. Is that correct?
Yes, Manusmriti along with other Dharmashastras together, they were the foundation of our social, cultural, religious life.
So the first argument saying we won't want to go back to Manusmriti as our ruling rule, it was never the rule book. These were just the basis on which different kings made their rulings.
Yeah, I have complete from for a purely legal perspective.
Correct.
That is what it is.
Okay, so that argument will be put to rest. Now, again, coming back to our Vedas, Aranyakas, Puranas. So, what is the hierarchy there?
Yeah. So again, this is a very interesting question. Whether there is a hierarchy is the first question we have to ask. And if yes, then what is the real nature of this hierarchy?
Okay.
When we say dharma pramanas, all the core texts of Hindu dharma, then obviously it means that all of them are valid. All
Correct.
of them are sources of knowledge. So be it the Vedas, that is the Samhita, Aranyaka, Brahmanas, Upanishads, be it the
No, but
Vedangas.
so,
No,
so
I'm coming.
Explain what these are to us. We
Okay.
still don't know what these are.
Okay. So let me start there. Yeah. So Vedas, to put it very, very simply, there are twofold purposes of Veda is to teach. One is dharma, the other is moksha.
Correct.
Dharma is about how to live in this life, how to live, and what are our duties, what are our right actions, what are the actions which are beneficial to us, which can give us sukha, happiness, swarga, heaven, chitta shuddhi, purification of the mind, so that we can become eligible to pursue moksha.
Perfect.
Right? So the second part is the moksha part, which the Upanishad teaches. So Veda, the Purva Bhaga, the Brahmanas, the Samhita Brahmana speaks about this, Karma Kanda speaks about this dharma.
Okay.
The Jnana Kanda speaks about the moksha. Right?
Okay.
This is very simply put. The Vedangas are the anga, the limbs of the Veda, which
As
helps
they
to
say, Vedanga is limbs of the Anga.
it is helpful to understand the Vedas.
Okay.
Right? It has all this, Kalpa is about ritualistic dimension. We have Jyotisha, we have Chandas and all those things. So,
Chandas is grammar.
Chandas is Chanda,
Chanda. Okay. So, meter in which you write.
Yes.
Correct.
And Nirukta, etymology
Correct.
and all. So that is Vedanga. Then the Smritis is basically a distillation of Vedic teaching on dharma into more systematic exposition on them.
Okay.
So the Veda, we have lost many of it. Whatever is there is very small portion. And there also teachings are very distributed here and there, and more ritual focused ideas, and in that other ideas are also embedded within.
Okay.
But the rishis and munis who have greater knowledge, greater access to the Vedas in a very deeper sense, they have distilled those teachings and given to us in a more systematic format.
Those are the Smritis.
Those are Smritis. And what is the agenda of the Smriti or the project of the Smriti is to first enunciate path for each individual for their own well-being, overall well-being. Well-being
Okay.
means Abhyudaya and Nishreyasa, that is material well-being as well as moksha.
Correct.
So-
So, put it simply, on the path of moksha, which is your spiritual journey.
Yeah, basically it enumerates different types of methods, spiritual methods, dharmic methods, through which you can work towards moksha.
Got
That is what this Varna Dharma, Ashrama Dharma.
No. We're still talking about the texts.
Yeah.
We will
I'm
come
just-
to what they have in a later part.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
huh.
So that is what they do. That is their purpose, dharma.
Okay.
Then afterwards, we have Itihasa Puranas, right? They are also teaching dharma, but they are also having about upasana, moksha, etc. also. Right? So kind of in the Mahabharata and in the Puranas.
So,
and all,
Mahabharatas, Puranas, or Ramayanas, all these are itihasas.
yeah, and they combine both dharma and moksha
Correct.
in their subject matter. Right?
But it is in a Katha Vachaka form.
Yes. So the format is narration,
Correct.
and in between the narration, they embedded the teachings of the Shruti and the Smritis.
Okay.
Right. So this
Now, where do Puranas come? And
Itihasa Puranas are taken together.
Okay.
Right. So
Where do Upanishads fall?
in the Veda, we have already discussed that.
Okay,
right?
Upanishads, Aranyakas.
No, Veda means mantra, Brahmana, mantra samhitas, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and Upanishads.
Okay, so Upanishads are also part of the
Veda.
Vedas. Okay.
They are Veda. They are Veda proper. And after the Veda, the Vedangas, and then the Smritis,
Okay.
and then Itihasa Puranas.
Got it. Okay,
Right.
so now these are the
core texts on Dharma and Moksha. These are the core religious texts of Sanatan Dharma.
okay.
Right? And then we have also Agamas and Tantras. So Agamas are also, they are revelations of our Shiva and Ishvara and Bhagavati. So they are also, in a sense, classified as a Shruti of a different kind.
Okay.
Right? There is a Shruti of the Veda, and then there is this Shruti of the Agama.
Okay.
So they're a class of their own, and they also deal with, they are more focused on the particular upasanas and achara in the context of those upasanas also.
Okay.
So we have these 5 divisions, right?
So this is the pantheon, or the base on which one can start understanding what Sanatana is.
Exactly.
Okay.
So coming to the question of hierarchy, now here it is very important to understand when we speak about hierarchy, while many people tend to rank the texts themselves, I think the correct way to go is, in case if the what is the context wherein this even the question of hierarchy will
No,
come.
I'm talking about, say for example, okay, so I didn't put that question across properly. For a beginner, where does one start? What is the next level where it becomes easier? Say for example, all of us know our Itihasa. So, Nitinji, I think I phrased that question wrongly. When I talk about the hierarchy, I'm not going in a completely academic sense. I'm going in the sense where what makes it easier for me to get to learn. So, Itihasa we all are familiar with. Even if we are not taught at home, we saw the Ramayana and Mahabharata, and now the abomination of Ramayana and Mahabharata as movie forms also. So, that way, Itihasa we are all familiar with. The Puranas, some of us have heard it, and some snippets of it we have read it in Amar Chitra Kathas and things like that. The Upanishads, few of us, we probably know the names of it. Few of us who have taken an interest have read the translations. So, what is the graduation path for us to get to the truth?
Okay, a very interesting question. I think the answer very much depends upon who is it asking or for whom it is being asked.
Completely novice like me.
Yeah. I mean, even there, it also depends upon the individual temperaments and all. For some people, the Itihasa Puranas, for many people, I would say, the starting point should be Valmiki Ramayana.
Okay.
Because it is pretty straightforward. It is wonderful story, and especially there are a lot of teachings on dharma given in a very very clear format.
Okay.
Very pretty straightforward. No, there are of course controversial areas.
Oh, definitely,
right?
like always.
But even they are designed to, by definition, all the Shastras, especially the Itihasa Puranas, they have all these Dharma Sankata episodes, which are meant to create reflection in us, is
Correct.
self-introspection, right?
Correct.
So I think Ramayana would be a very good starting point. And later, the Mahabharata and the Puranas.
Okay.
But if one has, for example, if somebody has a lot of affinity to Shakti.
So so when we talk about Puranas, what are the Puranas that one can go to? Shiva Purana, Vishnu Purana?
Yeah. So if you are, for example, have an affinity to Shakti, Bhagavati and all, then it is better to start with the Devi Bhagavatam.
Okay.
So similarly, if you have affinity to Ganapati, to better start with Ganesh Purana.
Okay.
So similarly with for Shiva, it's better to start with Shaiva Puranas, and for Vishnu, Vaishnava Puranas, and so Bhagavata, for example, is a absolutely wonderful text, Bhagavat Purana. For Krishna Bhakti and all, but they all have, it's not just Bhakti, they all have teachings
Dharma.
about Dharma
Yes,
and Moksha,
definitely.
everything, right? So Puranas are also kind of encyclopedic, which have a lot of things. So the key is, whatever text you start, there is one thing which is the reading, consuming information in an encyclopedic manner.
Okay.
But there is another thing which is engaging with the text in a very reflective manner, very slow manner, and over a long period of time.
Okay.
So, for example, this Chatushloki Manusmriti, for example, it deals with only the 4 shlokas.
Correct.
Many people have been surprised when I tell them that this whole book, this 300 pages book only deals with the 4 verses. How can you write on only 4 verses? That is possible because of a very long, slow, reflective engagement with each letter, each word of the verse, right? So
Each shabda is
each shabda. So that is a very different approach to rather than very reading quickly.
okay. Now
Right?
we are that is
Both.
that comes once you have reached an understanding of the text that you are going with,
Yeah, I mean the point I'm trying to
or a basic understanding.
yeah, the point I'm trying to make is there are certain works which you may need to read it in a very quick way to begin with, but later you can engage with very slowly. It again very depends upon the people. Some people start with Bhagavad Gita, for example, and then they may study under a teacher or something in a very depth way. Many people simply take some verse every day and try to understand on their own, apply in their own life in some way.
Okay,
So
Jitinji, you are going in a very scholastic way.
I
Now,
mean,
okay, so let me okay, so let me set the Purusha here. The Purusha here, which is the person like me, who just has to first understand what the texts are, go through a first thing. Let us not even go into the study of it. Now, I do not want to become an expert on one of these texts, or I do not want moksha day after tomorrow. All right? So, in this janma, I just want to start somewhere and understand what our smritis and shrutis are.
so you can literally start anywhere. See,
Okay.
so that is how I started.
Huh.
Say I started directly with Ishavasya Upanishad, which
Okay.
people usually say that you have to read after you study Prakarana Granthas and others. So if people could simply, there is a wonderful series of translations of Bibek Debroy done by him, English
Oh, yes.
translations of Mahabharata of various.
Oh, by the way, he has written a foreword or
Note of
appreciation,
endorsement. Yeah.
for your book as well.
Yes, I was very fortunate to have known him for a few years, and I think this book was one of the note of endorsements he wrote before his unfortunate
Oh, yes.
passing
What
away.
a scholar. What a scholar.
So I have been very fortunate to have been in his touch and be very encouraged by him in my journey. So you could pick up his translation of Mahabharata and of Puranas, start somewhere. So the idea is there is no one rule that where you should start.
Okay.
You can literally start anywhere. You can start with, say, my book on Manusmriti, and this appeals to you, and then you can then go deeper, right?
Into Manusmriti
Into
itself.
Manusmriti
Yeah.
itself. But the idea is that it depends upon a person what they're looking for, what level of commitment they're looking for, whether it is their width or it is their depth they are looking for, because both are needed to some extent. My suggestion from personal experience is that you have to read here a little bit, here little bit there, everywhere kind of approach has to be in general, but you also need to go in deep into some text that really appeals to you.
Okay, so that
width
we
and
will
the
do
depth
that we
have
will
to
do when we reach your stage of writing a book. So till then, what are the different things that we need to know? Yeah, you said start with Valmiki Ramayana.
Yeah.
Now again here, almost all our texts are in Sanskrit in the Mula, or everything is written in Sanskrit. How authentic, or I know, sir, I know for a fact, because I understand basic Sanskrit. So when I read some translations, especially Western translations done in the 1800s, oh, they are so grossly wrong. They're so grossly wrong. So, say for example, for people who do not understand Sanskrit, like me, I have basic understanding, but I cannot read and completely decipher the true meaning myself. I can only distinguish what it doesn't mean when the translation is there.
True.
Okay, so for people like me, what is a good translation of the Valmiki Ramayana?
I have read the Bibek Debroy's translation of Ramayana and
Okay.
really liked it.
Huh.
And their internet also, we have, I think, valmikiramana.net, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. Though it does not contain Uttarakanda, but other kandas are there.
And Uttarakhanda is a debated.
It is
kanda.
debated. I will not. Let us not get into
Okay.
that. It's a very different discussion. But the current manuscripts or the critical edition and all has the Uttarakanda in it.
Okay.
Right. So that is the fact of the matter. So while the internet version does not have that, but Vivek Deobroi is complete, and
Okay.
I have read several chapters of that, and I found it well. So because we are reading in translations, it has its own limitations.
Correct.
So, but it is a very good beginning point. And even there, reading 100 pages a day versus reading only 10 pages a day in a very slow and reflective manner makes all the difference.
It does. But
Even
it
when
does.
you are reading in a translation.
Correct. I understand that. I completely
So
understand.
you can literally start
Either
with
you are
Ramayana.
reading or you are studying.
Yeah.
Yes.
You could start with Ramayana because that is most easier, and then Mahabharata, Puranas, and all, and then this more detailed and in depth is needed. Then you can go to Smritis and Upanishads and all. That is always there, and there are ways to go about that also. But it again depends upon. Say if you are Shaiva and all, reading starting from a Shiva Purana will be more meaningful to you as a
And
person.
more engaging as well.
More engaging, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I, for example, loved reading Ganesh Purana.
Okay.
I've not completed, but has read several chapters. So I loved those stories from Ganapati because I feel connected to him.
Okay.
So like that, it depends on the person. So the reason I cannot give you one clear-cut answer is that it depends upon the individual.
Got it.
But my suggestion, general suggestion applicable to everybody is start somewhere.
Okay.
Start somewhere, whatever appeals to you, you start. Making a beginning is more important, and then sticking to that path, of continuous engagement is more important than, thinking about where should I start, what is the ideal way, and
So
such.
just start somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, Nitinji, so that says a lot. Start somewhere. So take away that inertia and go. And you would suggest Vivek Deobroi ji's translation any day. And it's a voluminous body of work that he has left for us. Unfortunately, not completed by his demise. I think there are a couple of projects of his which are pending.
Yes, for Purana project, he could not complete all the major Puranas, but he completed many of them.
Okay. Okay, so that's thing. Now, let's come and talk about Chatushloki Manusmriti, your book. Explain to, I understand that there is a tradition of discussing 4 shlokas. Explain to the viewers why you took it and what this tradition of 4 shloka commentary in our traditions are.
Okay. So basically, we have this notion to study, for example, Brahma Sutras, the first 4 verses of Brahma Sutra called Chatussutri Brahma Sutra. So first 4 verses, first sutras. Similarly, in the Bhagavatam also, we have Chatushloki Bhagavatam.
But they are not linear.
Yeah, they are not the opening verses, not linear, but they are taken as that which represents the very essence of the teachings.
Okay.
So same in the case of Brahma Sutra also, the first 4 verses basically captures the essence of the teaching. In the case of Manusmriti, however, while it is the first 4 verses, and it also in a sense captures the essence, but what I found was the first 4 verses act as a gateway to understand the rest of the Dharma Shastra.
Okay.
So they set the initial foundation or initial beginning that is very much needed to understand Dharma Shastra. The reason is in the 4 verses, it includes Anubandha Chatushtaya, and what is in technical language. And most of the Shastriya works have this. Basically, it tells us about what is the subject matter of the text.
Okay. It's called Anubandha
Chatushtaya.
Chatushtaya.
So Chatushtaya means fourfold. Fourfold ideas, fourfold principles that are needed to understand the purpose of a text. So,
Okay.
what is the subject matter? Who is the intended audience? And what is the connection between the subject matter and the text?
Okay.
So these are 4 principles that are used. And what is the last one is what is the prayojana? What is the end goal?
Okay.
What will you gain? What is the utility? Why should you study this?
Okay.
So,
So this is basically a foreword to a book.
introductory, primer or introductory portion of a book.
Okay.
Right. So that is why it is very, very important, because nowadays we already discussed this earlier, that whether Manusmriti is a law book, is it a constitution, what is the nature of a text. So all these doubts and many, many ideas such as it is exclusionary, I mean it is exclusive, the book addresses only some people, keeps some people out. See, all this, many of these opinions are
see.
prevalent
Okay.
today.
Sure. So we'll get to that.
No,
But
no,
let's
let-
finish the your reason to
Yeah,
start with the
yes, I'm
Chatusloki.
coming to that.
Huh.
So all those ideas are prevalent today because they have not studied the Anubandha Chatusha. They are not familiar
Okay.
with the purpose of the text, nature of the text, what is the subject matter.
So that is what you wanted to clear with the
Book.
book.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this book, I wanted to see. I have a desire, so to speak. Perhaps someday I would write a complete explanation or a commentary for the entire Manusmriti, which is 2,650 plus verses.
Wow.
So whether I will do
This
it.
is the Nitin Bhashya on Manusmriti.
Yeah, so if it happens or not, all Bhagavan Icha, I don't know. It may happen, may not happen. But I wanted this to be a kind of a beginner work, a beginner primer to that. Kind of that anybody who wants to have a authentic engagement with the text on its own basis, not on the basis of our prejudice, our superimpositions or our expectations, but by understanding what the text itself wants to tell us. So that is what is authentic engagement is.
Okay.
So you make space for the text to reveal itself. So anybody who wants to have this humility, this sincerity to engage with the text in honest manner, in such a manner, then this book will be a guide to how to approach that, how to go about that.
Okay. Okay. So you're basically a roadmap on how to engage with Manusmriti.
Yes, so kind of the first step that is needed to even begin the journey is what this book is about.
Okay. Fantastic. So you say this is setting the context. Could you take us through the four slokas? The first sloka, I think, introduces Manu and the audience and the interaction on how Manusmriti came to be. Is that correct?
Basically, the first four shlokas are in a narrative format. So a group of rishis come to
This is
Manu.
the first sloka.
Yeah,
The first
I'll
sloka is
just
basically telling you.
I'll combine all the first four shlokas for very quick summary. So basically, it's about a group of rishis coming to Manu, who was in deep meditation, seated in meditation, and it says asinam. And ekagram asinam. So
Okay.
he was within
Ekagram is in unity, is in one thought.
pointed concentration, meditation. So, and they request him, they praise him, they praise him as the best teacher, especially the best teacher who is knower of all the Vedas and who has knowledge of both the dharma and the moksha, and the best teacher who can teach us dharma, and then request him to give teaching on what is dharma for all the four varnas, as well as those who cannot be designated with any of the four varnas. So,
Okay.
So,
So these are
see, all the what is called as Varna Shankara, but the context here is basically there are four Varnas who can be for ritual states, Brahmana, Kshatriya, etc. But also those who cannot be designated with any of these four designations.
wait, there was an understanding of that as well?
I
Of people who did not belong to the
Yes.
Varna.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the idea is all humanity.
Okay.
So that is what the inclusive nature of the text comes from. That it is not saying that give us teaching about dharma for only one, say Brahmanas or Kshatriyas. It is saying Chaturvarna as well as Sarva Varnanam and Varna Shankara, Antar Prabhava, it uses the term.
Okay.
So the idea is it is inclusive of everybody.
Okay.
Tell us about dharma for everybody is a very simple question.
Okay.
To which Manu begins the answer. So the four shlokas does not get into the answer, that comes in the rest of the text.
I understand.
But it is setting the stage. So what is the very first teaching it teaches? It is that Manu was not somebody who created some law on some stone or some kingly thing which was hegemonically imposed or something like that. No. But a group of sages come to him for instruction of knowledge. So a
Okay.
Guru Shishya Parampara. So what is the nature of the text? Nature of the text is a Shabda Pramana or a Shastra Pramana. That is, it is like a textbook whose
Okay.
purpose is to reveal knowledge. It has no political agenda, no any form of other agendas.
Okay.
Its only purpose is to reveal knowledge about what? About dharma. Why? For the benefit of all people.
Okay.
The actual methods revealed could be different for different people, but there are methods that are available for everybody. So nobody is excluded from the practice of dharma. Only the method of dharma could be different. That we will see in the rest of the text. So, that is hinted in the very first 4 verses itself, when it includes all the people as the audience, as the broader audience for dharma. Practice, knowing dharma and practicing dharma.
Okay. So the context is the rishis visit Manu, and the adhikara is already set. Adhikara of Manu is already set.
No, adhikara is context of the audience. Audience is whoever is fit recipient. That is, the dharma is available for everybody.
Okay.
And Manu is also praised as a fit teacher.
Okay.
As a very knowledgeable teacher and the most suitable teacher to give this knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Manu's status as a fit teacher, and the rishis also qualified themselves as fit audience.
Yes.
To
Through
his
their
teachings.
conduct. Through their conduct.
Okay.
How they approach, when they approached Manu, they approached him with vinamrata, with humility and respect and sincere thirst for knowledge, not in arrogance. They paid respects to Manu. So,
And then requested for him to lecture them on dharma.
yes.
Okay. For
Not on artha, not on kama, not
Not on moksha, correct.
and not on any political agendas or any other things, but purely on dharma.
So it was a completely academic or a inquisitive experiment or inquisitive action that was going on here. Exercise. Let us call it an inquisitive exercise.
Yes.
So that is how Manusmriti comes out.
Yes, that is how the text projects itself.
Okay.
Right? See, how it came out is a less important
Correct,
question
but
rather than how it.
Now the context of which.
How it presents itself to us.
Okay.
Right.
So it is at the request of rishis for Manu to teach them dharma. That is why it is called Dharma Shastra.
Yes.
Okay. So now take us through this. And then Manu goes on with his exposition, and that is the Manusmriti that we have today.
Manu gives a very condensed form of exposition in the first chapter, and then he says, my student Brigu whom I have taught completely, now he will teach you the whole thing. So from the second half of the first chapter, it is the Brigu who is addressing the rishis.
Okay. Okay.
So from that we know that the text of Manusmriti that currently we have is the text that has survived, that has been preserved in the Brigu recension of the transmission.
That is how it is the Brigu narration that comes with it.
Yes. So
And
these
that
are all
is-
the
that
ideas
is-
that are embedded within the text that has been transmitted, the antiquity from the memory, how its own transmission has happened.
Oh, fantastic. Now, according to you, I assume you have gone through the Manusmriti multiple times. Manusmriti is one of the most controversial texts, or text that nobody has read, or at least the people who create the controversy have not read the text in its entirety, and people like us who get caught up in the confusion. Right? So let me be very frank. I am confused. I do not know which way to lean right now. So it is, after going through your book and cursory reading, I get the context in which Manusmriti was written, and then I also realized that, hey, hang on, this is not a prescriptive book. This is just a standard on dharma. Now, based on, and this was never imposed on anybody. It was never imposed on anybody. And Manu, least of all, was not even in power. He was just a venerated being, according to our Shastras and even our Shrutis. And just like we spoke earlier, whenever anybody said, if there is any dispute in the understanding of Dharma, always refer to Manu. So, Manu is the primary source of Dharma in our traditions. So, that much is established. Now, what is the antiquity of Manusmriti? Like we said, it is Swayambhu Manu, but what is the antiquity of the text of Manusmriti? What is the earliest reference we get to Manusmriti in our texts?
I mean, the scholars have dated the extant text to 2nd century BC to 2nd century AD.
Okay.
But as we were discussing earlier, this is merely a dating, even if correct. I mean, it is doubtful how correct it is. It has to be examined. Even if it is correct, it is to be about only the extant text.
Okay.
Not the,
now explain, what is the extant text?
Extant text means the available text with
Okay.
us, right? The text that is available to us and which has been dated by the Indologists, by the contemporary scholars using different methods.
Okay. Linguistic or carbon
Yeah,
dating,
a lot
whatever.
of speculations are also involved in that. But the dating itself, my point is, even if it is taken as correct, it is only about the text that we have. But the text itself says, as well as in other texts such as Mahabharata and Narada Smriti, etc., we have textual evidence which gives us a long line of transmission. This I have discussed in the first chapter in great detail.
Yes.
That it goes back to, it has very great antiquity. And in the Veda itself, we at several places, Manu has been described as whatever Manu says is like a medicine. So dating it to a post-Vedic time is quite problematic, is what I say.
Correct.
Again, I don't subscribe to these notions of Vedic, post-Vedic, etc. These are all very academic, historicist
way of looking at
way
things.
of looking
Yeah.
at things, which I don't personally, agree with, because it kind of largely speculative. Is what I find them, and largely speculative, and but they are, and they have no bearing on the interpretation. So my problem with the historicist interpretation is that they use it to undermine the text's authenticity.
Okay, so
but,
let's-
but the text authenticity is not connected to it in which decade or
Correct.
which.
I
Right?
understand.
Yeah.
So I understand that. My only understanding, my only reason or my line of inquiry was, what are the earliest references we get? Now, since you tell very clearly that even the Vedas say whatever Manu says is like medicine to you. So since now adjunct to that, we have a Manusmriti. So it is easy to correlate the two and say that the Vedic scholar, or rather the people who wrote the Vedic shlokas, knew that there was a Manusmriti. Is that
I think rather than that, it is not that in the Vedas. It's not that Vedas somebody wrote it. I mean that itself is debatable.
no? There are a lot of rishis and rishikas who gave the shlokas, and it is very well documented as well.
Yeah, I mean they were mantradrashtas who gave it, but nevertheless the point here is the.
No, I want to understand.
Yeah.
Is was Manusmriti known of during the Vedic times or pre-Vedic times?
See, again, this puts the whole question in a particular silos, a particular perspective of a historicist perspective.
No, I'm asking as an understanding.
No, as an understanding also, there.
I'm not an historian,
And
so
the-
I
no,
would
no.
not go into debates on this.
No. The point I'm trying to make is from a Shastriya perspective, very notion of Vedic period, post-Vedic period itself is problematic. Right?
Okay.
Right. So, but the better way to look at the whole thing is that if the Dharma Shastra comes from Swayambhuva Manu, and there are Manus at every Manvantara there has been a Manu, and there are every Kalpas have different Manus, so it's an eternal cycle. It keeps on going, right?
Correct.
So there is no question about who comes first and who comes later. So there will always be some Dharma Shastra which is given by Manu at every cycle. Right? So it will always be there. Just like Veda is eternal, the Dharma teachings are also eternal because Dharma is eternal.
Okay.
Right. So the better way to therefore the look at is whether Manusmriti is based on the Veda. So that is a more meaningful question. And yes, it is definitely based on Veda, and it is not just speculation that it is based on Veda. There are several definite ideas that are found in the Manusmriti, which can be directly traced either explicitly or implicitly being expressed in the Vedas.
Could you give us some examples?
Um, for example, the very notion of Varna, for example, in the Manusmriti, it has a very ritualistic connotations. For example, we know it speaks about how if you don't do Sandhya Vandana, if a Brahmana doesn't do Sandhya Vandana, he will lose his Varna. So what is this being lost here? What is being lost? Why should not doing Sandhya Vandana lose a Varna, right? If it is merely a designation of profession or a designation of something else, secular designation.
No, wait, let's not get the word
But
secular here.
yeah, but
because
secular in the sense of worldly,
Okay.
right? So, but it is a ritualistic designation, and we find the very ritualistic explanation of Varna in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. But there are even other places, for example, in the Manusmriti, in the very first chapter, there are several ideas about how a Brahmana, for example, has to can uphold his dharma in the loka. He upholds loka. That very similar phrase itself is found in the Vedas.
Okay.
So I have with a friend of along with a friend of mine, Dr. Satyan Sharma, we have compiled several references wherein the ideas or the part shlokas or the very ideas can be traced back to the Veda. And the ritualistic worldview in which the Manusmriti functions is very Vedic. It is very obvious that it is very Vedic. So the Veda speaks about brahmacharya ashrama, sannyas ashrama, and grahastha ashrama. It speaks about Veda adhyayana, etc. The same practices are also described in the Manusmriti,
Okay.
and in great detail. So it is very, very clear that Manusmriti has Veda as its basis.
Okay. Now, one of the huge controversies about Manusmriti is it is the beginning, or because of Manusmriti we have the caste system. Okay. So Manusmriti doesn't talk about the caste. In fact, it is not an Indian term at all. What it talks about is the Varnashrama system. Now, what does I mean, I hear a lot of people say a lot of things. I'll be very frank. I've not read the Manusmriti, so I do not know what Manusmriti talks about the Varnashrama system. What does Manusmriti actually tell about the Varnashrama system? In your book, we get to know that the approach of the rishis was in such a way, tell us what dharma is for each ashrama and for people who do not belong to any of the ashrama. So, what does the Manusmriti talk about the Varnashrama? What is its worldview about the Varnashrama system?
Okay. Yes, I mean, today, the caste has been very, very politicized, very problematic, and we don't know what it is referring to. It could refer to Varna, it could refer to Jati, it could refer to Kula, it refers to everything and anything and everything,
Correct.
right? So people often use Varna also like that, right? So, but without going into all the controversies and all the
we have to
politics,
go into the controversy.
all the politics of it.
Okay.
So I will, if we have to purely see it from what is the Shastriya, as I mentioned earlier.
In the Manusmriti,
Just-
let's go what
yeah,
the
yeah.
Manusmriti says
Yes,
about.
yes. Just like we speak about dharma as a Shastriya term, Varna is also Shastriya term.
Yes.
So Varna is a term which has been, or a Brahmana, Kshatriya, these are the terms which have been used.
Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra.
and others, etc. They have been used in Dharma Shastras such as Manusmriti, but also in other places, also in Vedas and Ityasa Puranas also
Correct.
we encounter. So what we see is in the very opening verses, it uses Varnas, as a framework to teach Dharma.
Okay.
Right? What is this framework? To understand this, we have to again trace back the Shastriya idea of what is Varna. As I just mentioned, in your response to your previous question, the notion of Varna as a whole today has been interpreted in different ways. For example,
Now, let's go to how Manusmriti
Yeah, we'll come into
defines
that.
it. Huh.
So you have to do the PT car, right?
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so there is this understanding of, say, for example, Bhagavad Gita says guna karma vibhagaha. So people interpret that one is by the gunas you classify,
Correct.
so psychological traits, and other is karma by your profession, etc. They have their value in their place, but
Guna is by your psychology and karma is by your achara.
by
Or
your profession.
by your
They
profession.
call it profession,
Huh.
but here actually the karma refers to your swadharma.
Okay.
Right? Your whatever your actions that you're duty bound to do as per dharma. But all these the currently the kind of interpretation, they're incomplete because they have been interpreted in such a way by excluding the Smriti understanding of the Manu.
Okay.
Because the Smritis also bring in the element, apart from guna and karma, they also bring in the element of janma.
Okay.
So that is the point of contention.
Is this going into the prarabdhas?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So what, for example, what the Chandogya Upanishad itself reveals is that Chandogya Upanishad has a verse which says, if you do good karma, if you do proper your karma, your swadharma and all, then in the next birth you will take janma as Brahmana, Kshatriya, etc. If you don't, then you will take janma which are wherein the dukkha is more and all of those. So that is the key idea about where prarabdha comes.
Correct.
So the idea is, but still the question remains, what is this varna? So I asked, Manusmriti at one place says that if a brahmana or a kshatriya, etc., if they don't do their nitya sandhya vandana, they lose their varna. Why should not doing one small ritual activity that takes 10-15 minutes twice a day make you lose some varna? Why is it? If it is a merely worldly designation.
Is it answered in the
We get the
Manusmriti?
answer. We get the answer when you see whatever the Manusmriti has to say, when you put that into the larger puzzle of what the Vedas say, what the Itihasa Puranas say. That is what my Appendix 1 chapter has done.
Correct.
So because it's a pieces of the puzzle. You have to take them together.
Correct. So let's.
To just put it in summarize it without going, people can read the chapter.
Well, they will definitely read
if I have
this.
to define it, what is the understanding of Manusmriti of a Varna? It is of a ritual state. Varna is a ritual designation.
Okay.
Which indicates what is the ritual state of us, what kind of divinity is present inside of us. So to make sense of this idea, and this is not a Manu's idea, this goes back to Veda. The Vedas, including the Brihadaranyaka Upanishads, etc., very speaks about devatas who are varna abhimani devatas. What does mean is devatas which identify with certain varnas, or varna devatas to put it. And they say that these devatas, say Indradi devatas for example, they are kshatriya varna abhimani devata.
Okay.
So basically, if we have to designate a person as a kshatriya, then that person has to have the essence of Indradi devatas in him.
Okay.
How do you get those essences? It is through Purva Janma Karma, which makes you take birth as the children of mother and father, both of whom are Kshatriyas or a Brahmana, whatever, or Vaishya, whatever the case is. So you inherit that because of your Purva Janma Karma. You are born in such a way that you inherit that Mantra Devata or that Devata essence into your body. Okay. So that is what Varna is. And if you have to strengthen that, then you have to practice your Swadharma. That is your Varna Dharma and Ashrama Dharma. You practice it, it becomes strong. You don't practice it, you fall away from your practice such as Sandhya, Vandana, etc. Then that becomes weak. This idea is there in the Veda itself.
I understand that. So one second. Nitinji, let's get to the actual text of Manusmriti, because it has been attacked. Now, even to understand what the attack is, it says that Manusmriti is the reason all the ills of the Varnas system is there. Right? Now, people who say we don't want the Manusmriti are still following the same Varna categorization or the split in the Varnas that is there even today. Was it there? And I assume it is there. It definitely was there during the Manusmriti days and the Vedic days as well, because the Varnas are defined well in both Manusmriti and the Vedas. Now, what is the definition of Varna in the Manusmriti? Is it birth based? Is it guna based? Or is it karma based? Birth based, obviously, your prarabdhas, your purva janma punyas, all that will come in. But in a given Manushya Janma, how does Manusmriti define Varna?
So that is what I was telling. When
No. Let us
when-
go.
No. When you cut me short
Huh.
before I completed my explanation. So let us keep aside all the historicist perspective that they.
Let us
did
talk
there.
about
Let us-
Manusmriti perspective.
Yeah, Manusmriti Shastriya perspective.
Yes.
Right? It's not just Manusmriti, but the Dharma Shastra or the Shastriya perspective. So as I was mentioning you, Varna refers to a ritual designation
Okay.
and of whether there is a presence or a absence of a particular Varna Devata. That is
Okay.
it. So what is the purpose?
So what is a
No,
what is
let
a
me-
Brahmana Varna Devata, Kshatriya Varna Devata?
Yeah. Let me complete. Yeah, I already mentioned Kshatriya Varna Devata, right?
Huh.
Indradi Devatas, Brahmana, Agni, etc.
Okay.
So the details are in the book. We don't need to go through the details.
Huh.
So what is necessary here to understand is what is the purpose of this ritualistic designation called Varna or called Brahmana, Kshatriya, etc. The purpose of adopting, it's about not about real life, sociology, etc. The purpose of using this framework as far as the Manusmriti and other Shastra is concerned is to enumerate the best method of dharma which can take that person to abhyudaya nishresa, overall well-being. So
Correct.
this is the purpose. So if a person has, say, Brahmana Abhimani Devata or the Brahmana Varna Devata or belongs to Brahmana Varna, they are called, right? So then a particular kind of life practices or paricharya has been suggested for them.
Okay.
That is what Brahmana Dharma is. Adhyayana, Adhyapana, Yajana,
Okay.
right? All those things. Similarly for the Kshatriyas, similarly for the Vaishyas, similarly for the Shudras, and similarly also for all those who don't belong to any of this.
Is there a hierarchy that is mentioned in the Manusmriti? Does it see one better than the other?
See, again, this is a very loaded question, and
No, these are the attacks that I have heard.
exactly, that is why,
Ah.
because these questions are problematic, because the question itself is ideologically motivated.
No, it is.
No,
It
is.
definitely is. I am not disputing that fact at all.
So, what I'm trying to get at is very, very simple. You ask wrong questions, you get wrong answers. So, if you read Manusmriti...
How do we rephrase this question?
Yeah, to rephrase the question, you have to understand what something could be best for one person. It's not about hierarchy. It's not about, see, if you speak about universal Purusha, and in the Veda itself, Purusha Sukta has that from the Purusha everything came out, in
Correct.
which even the Varna has been enumerated.
Correct.
People think that head is higher and feet is lower. But in a temple, that same Purusha is lying down horizontally.
Correct.
There can we say head is higher and feet is lower?
No.
No. So the point I'm trying to make is you ask the right questions, you'll get right answers. What is the purpose of Manusmriti? We have to again come back to a very basic question. It is to enumerate what is dharma for a particular person or a particular group, or because we have millions of people. There cannot be millions of instructions. They
Okay.
have to have some frameworks wherein they can group people into particular groups and then give that instruction.
Correct.
So that is the purpose of it. Is a dharma. It is for dharma enumeration of dharmic method. So in that the perspective adopted, because dharma is ritualistic, dharma is yajna.
No, I get it,
Right?
yes.
From that perspective, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, main methods have been given. But in addition to these methods, there are other methods called Samanya Dharma, universal Dharma, which have been given, which are all for everybody. For example, serving your parents.
Okay.
So, for serving your parents is not just something I do it out of obligation or because I feel it right and all, but it is a dharmic practice. That means when you once say that it is dharma, it means that it can take you to Sukha, Swarga, Moksha. Right?
Correct.
So, you have to, rather than asking the question whether there is hierarchy, whether there is not
See,
hierarchy.
Varunji, that is not
there
See,
could be.
Varunji, I understand, but you are coming from a deep understanding.
No, no,
Now,
it is,
now
it
here,
is, it is needed.
it is
Such a-
needed, but it is not possible for everybody, where Manusmriti is just a name and a memory in most people. And it's a beating book right now. It's a beating book right now. So, a scholar who has gone through a scholastic reading of the Manusmriti will probably understand the way you put it. So, what I would want to know as a non scholar is what are the, according to Manusmriti, what are the duties or acharas of a Brahmana, of a Kshatriya, of a Vaishya, and of a Shudra. Now, what are the prescriptions it gives? Does it say that unless you do this, and then you obviously there are samanya dharmas as well, which is not specific to the varna. Now, in my understanding, the basic understanding of the Manusmriti, that whatever little I have gone through, this was an occupation-based, division or structuring of a society. But it also comes from your prarabdhas. The determination of where you are, or your fortunes, or your occupation, or your standing, comes from your prarabdhas as well. That is a shastric understanding of this. What does Manusmriti say about what are the ritualistic requirements of each of the varnas?
See, since you are saying that from a layman's perspective, so then the first question should be not scholastic at all. It doesn't matter to me as an individual what does it say about Brahmana, Kshatriya, etc. The question should.
It does matter to me because I am being beaten with it.
Let me complete.
Huh.
So, if the correct question gives correct answers. So, as an individual, as a layperson, the question should be: what is the dharmic method that the text says that I can practice? That is for my well-being. So that is more fundamental question.
Fantastic.
So that is more fundamental question. And when I ask that question, then I will get the answers. Then the further questions comes up. If I am a Brahmana, then I have certain
So
methods.
that is the question.
Yeah,
so I am putting myself in all four varnas and asking the same question.
You don't need to put yourself in all four varnas.
Because
the reason I'm stressing this is very simple. Irrespective of the whatever paths, different paths given, each path is individually capable of leading one to sukha, swarga,
I am not even disputing
moksha.
that.
Yeah.
I am not even disputing that.
No, the thing that is being attacked. See, you mentioned about
I am
the
not
attacks,
even
right?
disputing that. I just want to know, as a Shudra, what are the things that I need to follow in a dharmic way of life,
There are many things. There are actually
according to the Manusmriti.
not just see when I speak.
No,
I
we are
speak
speaking
for
about Manusmriti.
But when I speak, I also speak about Dharmashastras as a whole. We have at least 50 plus texts called Shudra Dharmacharas.
Okay.
Shudra Dharma texts, which are enumerating Shudra Dharmas specifically with focus. And they are basing it from the Manusmriti and other Smriti Shastras, Puranas and Vedas.
But does the
and all.
Manusmriti talk about what are the acharas and what are the dharmas?
It does. What Manusmriti says is very, very interesting because it speaks for the Shudras, for example. It gives the one most important thing is Shushrusha.
Okay.
Which is seva, which is seva for the rest of the society.
Okay.
What is that seva? What is the form of that seva? People always think that seva means manual labor. That could be one form, fine. But that is not the only thing. So today, for example, all the service industry that we have.
Correct.
Do we that service industry comes under this Shushrusha?
Yes, without
arts, all the arts and all science, technology, all these various creative and scientific, all this comes under, including medicine, etc. All this comes under seva.
Correct.
So, and these are there is one aspect which is about profession and making money and all. The other aspect is about
Social responsibility.
The punyam, the ritualistic punyam. So the idea is there is Sushrusha, but there is also other aspects. For example, Panchamahayagyas are something that everybody has to do, including Shudras and all. There are other, the Manusmriti has a very interesting verse which says that the Shudras can adopt any and all practices that the Brahmana, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas are doing, as long as it is not specifically prohibited for them, such as, chanting of the Veda mantras, etc.
Okay.
Apart from that, they can adopt everything. So we see this on the ground, we see this in the form of samskaras.
Correct.
Samskaras, we Brahmana, Kshatriyas, etc. also do this. But all the communities across India also have these samskaras. When the birth happens, when the naming happens, when the Vidyarambha happens, various samskaras.
So all these are samskaras across the 4 Varnas.
Not just across the whole, all communities across India.
Whether they belong to the 4 Varnas or
not
outside.
Outside, doesn't matter.
Now, what is it for Vaishyas? What are specifically given for Vaishyas?
Yeah, so specifically, see, for them, this Dhanam, etc., and the Veda Dhyana, etc., are given. For profession, business, cattle, and other things are given.
Okay.
So, for Kshatriyas also, Kshatriyas' main duty is,
Protection.
Yes, statecraft and all those things. For the Brahmanas, the ritualistic duties are main, the Vedic, the preservation of the Vedas, the Veda Adhyayana, Adhyapana, teaching, and doing yajna for others, doing yajna and ritualistic activities for oneself and others, and all those things. Though here again there is a nuance that is to be understood. When we speak about Swadharma, even in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna also speaks about Swadharma and he enumerates what is Swadharma for Brahmana and Kshatriya and all.
Correct.
So, there are two things. One is the primary understanding of the Swadharma is in a ritualistic sense.
Correct.
And the professions that have been given or enumerated is only in a suggestive sense. That is, it is not, for example, there is no one profession given for Brahmana for earning a livelihood. So he can do so for Paurahita, he can do so for teaching, he can do so if there is such a need, he can also take up some duties of a Kshatriya or some business to maintain him. Say similarly for Shudra, while the Seva or Shushrusha in a very narrow sense has been said that it is more superior in the sense that when you do Seva to a Guru, you attain Punya, not just livelihood. But Manusmriti also says that if you are not able to attain livelihood by these methods, if you are not able to maintain your family, then you can do all this, small businesses as well as this arts, crafts and other, kalas and everything.
Which usually go into the vritti of a Vaishya. A Shudra can also take that up.
Yes, some portions of, business, some portions he can definitely take up. But also the independent entrepreneurs, independent entrepreneurial skills, the service skills, the arts, crafts, everything comes under that. Right?
Okay.
He can take up literally everything. See, we see that in the past
except for
also,
the Veda Mantrocharane, everything else is prescribed for everybody else.
So, see, Veda Mantrocharane is in the context of the ritualistic.
Okay.
The vritti is different, and this is different, right?
Correct.
Right? So, he also has, say for example, there are certain mantras in the this Panchamahayagya and all. The method given is for he has to use the Namaha. So, Namaha is also a mantra, but it is of different nature. And all these Puranic methods of ritualistic practice, the Tantric methods of ritual practice is open for everybody.
Okay.
They have been revealed specifically by the rishis, etc., by keeping in mind that the Shudras, etc., they are not eligible for purely Shrauta Smarta practices, wherein Veda mantra is utilized. So, a different method of mantra practice, a different method of ritual practice through the Tantra, Purana, etc., have been given to Stotra, etc., that are common for everybody.
Okay. Right? And Bhakti is for everybody.
Yes. Bhakti is a part of a Samanya Dharma. So what the Manusmriti says is very, very important. It says that Ahimsa Satyam Asteyam Shaucham Indriya Nigram Yesham Samasika Dharma. So it says that even if, the context, it comes in the context of those who don't belong to any of the 4 Varnas.
Correct.
So for example, this Varna Shankara and others. So who cannot be classified into any of the Varnas. it could be, see, it could be expanded to all humanity who cannot be classified into Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, etc.
So who are these people according to the Manusmriti?
See, Manusmriti has speaks about when the mother is a Brahmana, mother is a Brahmana, mother is a Brahmana, father is a Kshatriya, their children cannot be classified as either a Brahmana or as a Kshatriya. It is a purely ritualistic, from a ritualistic perspective, that definition is given. And similarly, those who give up their Varna Dharma, they are also considered Varna Shankara. So they are also considered has fallen away from Dharma, from their
From Varna or Dharma?
Varna Dharma.
Okay.
Varna is Dharma, right? So there are different methods of Dharma. Varna Dharma is one of the methods. So for all of them, this Samanya Dharma is given.
Okay.
So that means that anybody, basically what it all boils down to is doing japa, etc., and or serving the parents, all these basically are what is called as Samanya Dharma, are duties that does not depend upon the being falling into the designation of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. That Varna definition is not needed. It is for everybody and everybody.
Okay.
So this is very powerful idea today, because we see that today's society is much more complicated. Life is much more complicated. Many of our actions are not in line with Dharma Shastras, not in line with any Shastras, for Hindu Shastras for that matter. And Swami Vidyaranya writes in Parashara Smriti 500 years back that even during his time, the Brahmana, Kshatriyas, etc. were not were not living up to the ideals of the Shastra. So he asks question, does it mean we should throw away the Smritis and all because nobody
is practicing it?
Yeah. What he says, no, it is not like that. We have to retain it, and we have to, he says there are two kinds of doshas. One is the yuga dosha. Because of the nature of the yuga itself, many practices are not possible because it limits us, it prevents us. The other dosha is raga dvesha, our own, because of our own desires and lust and anger and all, we don't
Arishat Vargas.
Yeah, Arishat Vargas. We are unable to do that. The second one, we can change. The first, yuga dosha, we cannot change. So the ideal is, you try your best to transform yourself, align yourself with the ideals of the Shastra to the best of your ability. Do even small, but you try your best. That is the all we can do. And that is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Correct. Alpameva, even if you do little bit of dharma, then it will give great rewards. So why I have specifically went into this layer is, the reason Manusmriti, see, let us say Manusmriti has 2650 verses. Let us say it has, say, 200 verses which are problematic. From our perspective today, they are considered problematic and all. But we are so focused on those problematic verses that we are missing out on the heart of the Manusmriti. We are missing out on the rest of the 2400 verses which has real gems of wisdom on it. And we are missing out on the real essential teaching of the Manusmriti. What is that? We are missing out what the Manusmriti itself is telling, its purpose. We are trying to search for equality, egalitarianism and other things in the Manusmriti, wherein what it says is that I am a textbook on dharma. And my purpose is to enumerate different dharmic methods that can take you to Abhyudaya Nishresa, Sukha, Santosha, and Swarga, and Moksha. If you are focusing on this, then it doesn't matter what matters to any individual who reading the text should be that what are the methods that are applicable to me, that I can practice, that I have the capability to practice, and that are Shastra compliant to practice, so that I can attain that Sukha, Swarga and Moksha. That alone should be our concern when we deal with any of these Dharma Shastras, any of the Smriti Shastras at the individual level. We can have an academic...
In a social level?
No, individual is the unit of the society, right?
Correct.
From individual there is family, from family there is society, from society there is a country, there is the nation.
Correct. I understand all that.
So if we should not lose about this Abhyudaya
I understand.
Nishreyasa.
I understand. I am not defending or attacking the Manusmriti.
No, all I am saying
My
is...
question is, what does it say about it? That's all. It's an inquiry.
No, the point I am trying to make is, clarify is, so that people who are watching it do not again attack me.
That's okay. That is fine.
No, it is not fine.
No, if we just stick to what it says.
Exactly. So we have to examine what it says with the open mind and the open heart.
Correct.
So what is happening is the political
No, I
and
understand
other
that.
bias.
See, we know that.
And
That
even
is a
if I
given.
say that there are problematic
No,
areas, which we accept.
let us understand this.
We have
It
to
is a given.
understand that
No,
text.
we come from we. That is what I'm trying to do. All right. I know that there has been an attack. I know there has been defense. All right. But ipso facto, what the text says, it could be problematic. It could not be problematic.
Yes.
It could be relevant to the day and time and the society we live in. It could not be relevant. But I just wanted to know what it says.
Yes. So as I mentioned, but it is also important along
It
with
may
what
be
it
important.
says, how to read what it says is also equally
That is
important.
fine.
Yeah.
That is fine. But without us addressing what it says, we cannot simply say, no, you have not read it in the right spirit. That is a.
But then
No, 1 second. First, let us address. So, say for example, Manusmriti also says, na stri swatantram arhati. Okay? I know the context in which it is said. But it says it is a misogynist text. Now, if you can tell us in what context it is said, then people can understand why it says it and what does it mean. But we simply cannot say, you do not know how to read it. That is not an answer for any.
Definitely,
thing.
definitely. So, I mean, in fact, I have dealt with this verse in the third chapter of
Yes,
the introductory
that is
chapter.
why I am asking you.
So the reason, see, while it was a conscious decision when I was writing the book to not focus on the controversial portions.
No, let's get to this.
I'm
Let's
coming.
get to this. Let's please. So,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
help the people
yes,
understand.
I'm coming to that.
This is a very controversial statement. This is what everybody says. It's a misogynistic book.
Yeah.
But you have explained the context very clearly, gone back a few shlokas, and then told in this artha, the artha is different.
Yes.
So, can you narrate that to the audience,
Yeah,
please?
definitely. So I was coming to that. So while I had by choice kept the focus on the essential how to interpret and all, but the part of it was also what you said, that we have to give some samples, so to speak, on how to interpret. So one of the verses that I chose was this one for that purpose. And as you rightly said, it has been very popular in a negative sense.
Correct.
So,
Unless we, like you spoke very clearly, explaining this, if this is given out, people can understand. But if we simply keep saying, you don't know how to read it, your interpretation is wrong,
definitely.
then there is no point.
Then that will be simply, I said, you said kind
Exactly.
of thing. So coming to that verse, it appears in different places. But let me take up the 9th chapter where it comes, which is more interesting. So it speaks about Pita Turakshati Kaumari, and so when you're young, your father protects you.
When you're a Kumari, your father protects you.
Yeah, and then after marriage, your husband protects you. When you're in old age, your son protects you. Nastri Swadantram Arhati. So women do not deserve independence. So that is what very plain translation of it.
Okay. That is a transliteration of it.
No, that is a translation of it.
Okay.
So what this has done is, first of all, the context is missed. The context is that the verse is addressed to the men, not to the women.
Correct.
Right? That it is addressed to it is reminding the father.
Duty of the men at different relationships that they hold.
Exactly.
You as a father, you as a husband, you as a son.
Exactly. So this has to tie into the earlier verse wherein speaks Etra Naristu Pujante Te Ramante Devata.
So that also is in the Manusmriti.
That also is in
where
the Manusmriti.
women are praised, or rather where women are worshipped, there the gods choose to live.
And then the gods are happy. They Ramante Devata, they're happy. And there are a couple of similar verses which basically says that a home where the women are sad or they shed tears, there no ritual activity will fructify, the whole family will be destroyed. So basically, in that context, this also has to be seen that the protection, ensuring the well-being of the women folk of the family is with the men folk.
So here, it very in this context, na stri swatantram arhati is seen in the context saying swatantra is not directly translated as freedom, but should not be left alone without protection is the context in which you read this.
Exactly. So it is not just me reading, but the commentators
Yes.
have also clarified
Not
this,
just the commentators,
that,
if one goes through linearly the text,
it is very
It-
obvious.
it is
there.
very obvious.
Yes. So here, the swatantram has a meaning of state of vulnerability. So it says that women should not be left to fend
Vulnerable.
off on her own
Correct.
to a state of vulnerability. Rather, we should ensure that she is never pushed into such desperation, such state of vulnerability. That is the context. So this is all about protection and duty of the men. Men.
And this is in address to what duties of men at different stages of life are,
Yes.
but it is taken in another context.
Yeah, I mean, it can be elaborated in the Arthashastra, for example, it says that for a woman who does not have any relatives, it is a duty of the king to protect her.
Correct,
Ensure
yes.
that she is safe and she has some form of livelihood, etc. So this again boils down to that king as the father of the whole country.
Protector, yes.
As a protector, right? So it is in that context only it has to be understood. So the first it is about protection. Second, that swatantra here means unprotectedness, state of unprotectedness. That is state of vulnerability. So people nowadays people have this problem with the very notion of protection also. Why should anybody be protected and all?
Now the equality and other
Exactly.
things that come in. Yeah, that's a modern. See, I am not even. I am not even in that situation where I want to say no. I have to equate our current understanding of society, our niceties, with the realities that existed when these texts were.
But what is interesting is that these very teachings are very much relevant even today.
Of course
So
they are.
is it? I mean, when we say that men should have this understanding, this conviction, or this bodha in their mind that I should protect women and not exploit them, then such a man can never be a rapist. Such a man
Correct.
can never tease a woman. He will never mistreat another woman, right? Who are outside of the family.
Correct.
So now the feminists say, don't tell me the length of my skirt, but teach the man to how to look or what not to look. So that is exactly what the Manusmriti is doing, teaching the man that how should he behave towards a woman, that he should always respect women, he should always cherish women. Not when you do that within your family, you will also do it outside, right?
Correct.
We have this notion that whoever is not your wife and all, they are all like your mother or a sister.
Sister, yes.
Right? This is a very deeply embedded notion, and this comes directly
From the
this
Manusmriti,
Manusmriti.
yes.
Directly, we
Yeah.
can draw that notion from this Manusmriti, that respect for women, that admiration for women, that duty towards women to ensure that their well-being is always taken care of, is very much a teaching of Manusmriti.
Fantastic. So, I mean, now you have left me no option but to go verse by verse on the Manusmriti. Would that be your. I think that's the only way anybody in society can have a meaningful engagement on any conversation. Because just by cursory reading of your book, I get to understand that many attacks are out of context without an understanding of what the text actually intends to say. And since it is in Sanskrit, most of us do not speak or read or understand it to the extent of study. We may grasp a few words here and there and say, okay, this must mean that. How important do you think is it to read in the original text, or would you say there are good translations of Manusmriti? If there are, what are they?
See, reading in the Samskrita after learning Samskrita is always the superior way.
Yes.
Right? Because only then you will be able to access the bhashyas, the commentaries,
Correct.
most of which have
Are in Sanskrit.
and have not been translated also.
Correct.
Right? Even there is no even problematic translation. There are simply no translations
Correct.
available, right? So even otherwise, reading in Samskrita is of course the best way forward. But yeah, even if your knowledge of Samskrita is not that well and you have to read through translations, there are good translations such as Gangana Just translation of entire Manusmriti with commentary of Medhatiti is available. Thankfully, the only translation of the only one commentary out of 9 commentaries on Manusmriti is available.
Okay.
And my book, in my book, I have quoted, though I have only dealt 4 verses, I have used it to give a glimpse about the entire Dharma Shastra, and I have quoted n number of commentators and other acharyas, including Shankaracharya and others. If you read my book, you will be able to appreciate a lot of things. But my idea is, even if you are fairly familiar with the Samskrita and can use a translation, then you can keep it the original text and the translation side by side and read it.
Do you have, would you suggest certain translations which you think are better than the others?
For Manusmriti, I would prefer a Gangana Just translation over others. But again, it was written long back, and it's a very good translation. But you have to be familiar with the notion of translation itself, because what happens, for example, many places, if you read only the English, for example, I'll give you a very simple example: virtue, prosperity, desire, or something like that. We cannot make sense what they're referring to unless you are familiar with the fact that they're referring to Dharma, Artha, Kama.
Okay.
So if you are seriously into the study, then when you carefully, that is why I said you keep the original along with translation, and
have a rudimentary understanding of Sanskrit.
Keep matching it. Then there will come a time when you will recognize that a certain translator has a certain way of translating.
Okay.
So, for example, in the case of Upanishads, if you become very familiar with Swami Gambhirananda, then eventually there will come a time that you can easily map certain of his translations to the terms in Samskrita,
Correct,
which he has translated. Same with Ganganaja, anybody else, right?
Correct.
So, without that, then there will be gap. You see, if you are only reading in English, and if you are not able to map at least important concepts to the Samskrita, then you will be missing out on many things. So, simply reading profit and desire and virtue will not give us that understanding. Rather than understanding, it is Dharma, Artha, Kama, right?
Get it. So everybody has their own peculiarities, and those peculiarities you will understand only if you do a cursor or a simultaneous reading of the original text and the translation.
And once you engage with the text for a period of time, then you will have intuitive grasp of the subject matter. Then reading in translations, through translations along with origin, will be even more easier.
Okay.
So because whether you read in Samskrita, reading in translation, unless you have grasp of the fundamental aspects of that Shastra, then you will not be able to appreciate the real teaching of the Shastra. See, the Western Indologists who are translating, they are reading the Sanskrita and translating.
Correct.
But because of their historicist perspective...
And a lot of non-translatables in Samskrita as well.
That is there. That is also there. That are problematic. But major problems is that because of their historicist method, they are unable to appreciate the actual philosophical teachings of the text.
Correct. So, even the bhava is lost.
Yes. So, reading in translation also, if you have that proper method of interpretation, then with some effort, you will be able to understand the text very well. So, one of the purposes of this book is to provide that worldview, that stepping stone, that gateway, which is through which you can have authentic engagement with the text.
That is very, very evident. In fact, that is what inspired me to come up to you and confidently say the next thing for me is to go through Manusmriti text by text. Now, there are a couple of other things. So, I think we have gone through this and given a basic understanding of what is this thing. Now, before we end, I need a couple of promises from you. Here we have an English commentary of Ishopanishad by you. Okay? I would want you to come back and sit down and explain this book to us.
Okay.
And more importantly, Another most important, menstruation across cultures. Now, these are the things that there are at least two more podcasts that you have to promise me. And we will sit down and go through these. Uh, this one you started writing during the Sabrimala conflict.
Yes.
And this, we won't be able to do justice to either of these books, clubbing it in this podcast. So I would want to leave you here after extracting a promise for two more podcasts in the near future.
Definitely, definitely.
And closing, Nitinji, what is your message to the audience on either side of the divide about Manusmriti?
I think the simple message is that if you can keep away the biases and the political leanings aside, and if you genuinely want to engage with the text, there is much the text has to offer you. Even you could disagree all you want. You could even if if you find many of the places things that you cannot agree with or you do not find relevant to it, I can assure you that there are so many teachings in Manusmriti that are so much relevant to us on everyday basis. I have been giving talks on many of these ideas, but there is much more in it. My appeal to everybody is that rather than being stuck in the politicization of the text, if we engage with the text in an honest manner, then it will be much more fruitful and it will be much more helpful to us in many different ways to come up to come up with frameworks, ideas, categories to analyze contemporary issues, to frame answers to those issues in a more meaningful manner.
No way.
Because at the end of the day, what is dharma? Dharma is that which upholds us, that which sustains us, that which can take us to the highest.
Correct.
And we cannot have a discussion on dharma without dharma shastra.
Correct.
So if you want to have meaningful engagement with socio-cultural, civilizational and religious spiritual issues from a Bharatiya drishti, then we have to engage with the Dharma Shastra. Otherwise, it will only be a copy-paste from the West, like we have with all the issues today. We copy the problem from the West and we copy the solution from the West, but there is no genuine, authentic discussion from Indian perspective. So
I beg
this is
to
my
differ.
appeal to
I beg to differ with you there. We copy the problems from the West. We do not solve them. And most importantly, one way I also disagree with you is it is changing. It is changing, and it is changing in a very big way. I personally have many experiences where people who have been completely on a Western lens come and say, this is a bloody Western solution, it will not work. So I've seen that transformation, and I'm seeing people of my generation who've been completely atheistic, completely whitewashed from the West, finding our way back. More importantly, I see that the next generation is engaging, or at least hungrier than we are, for a Bharatiya way of looking at things. They might not be looking at it dharmically, but they're still looking at it from a Bharatiya way, which will eventually lead them to a dharmic way of looking at things. So it is not all despondency. I think the tide has turned.
Hopefully, your words are proven true, and we will have much more positive engagement with Manusmriti, with other Dharma Shastras in the coming years. I mean, one of the reasons why I have written the book and I plan to write more on Dharma Shastra in the future is to create this situation wherein, more positive situation, wherein there is more positive engagement. So
Absolutely.
hopefully it
Nitinji,
happens.
there are minimum 2 more podcasts that we have to do together.
Definitely, we'll do that.
Thank you so much for being on Conversations in Bangalore, and I hope we keep seeing each other. Thank you, audience. I do not know how we are going to take this. I don't know which side of the divide you are in, but I am truly delighted to have this conversation. Thank you.